It is the defense counselor's duty to protect the rights of the individual, as it is the prosecution's duty to uphold and defend the laws of the state. Justice for all. Only we have a problem here.
I live inside my...
The intention of justice is to see that the guilty people are proven guilty and that the innocent are freed. Only we have a problem here.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are taking a look at this case from a psychological perspective.
Fun. Everybody was having a good time.
Does Brian Albert strike you as the kind of guy who's always having fun? No. And here's a news flash for this judge. Mental health professionals have solutions.
They made an arrest. I got the guy who killed Danny.
There's like a mix between sadness and anger because that's the moment for him when he really started to believe that his mother was involved, right? Closes his eyes because he's now remembering. There is a huge psychological component to what was going on here. And according to this group, Brian Albert Jr. gets like the most celebrated birthday hour of anybody ever. Like every 30 seconds, someone's like, happy birthday! Right? She's trying to lump Colin into that earlier group.
Somebody jumps in as a journalist, draws attention to it, in a light that is not good for the prosecution. I mean, and there are serious allegations of corruption in the DA's office and the state police.
Oh my God, it's not like his 21st birthday.
What happened outside was separate from anything that happened inside.
The most incriminating 911 call.
They're in front of his parents having text messages.
Definitely someone should give you a gun and a badge.
Horrible text messages read back as if he's the aggrieved party.
Hold on, have each of you been called murderers?
Who wants to be the one to give Matt the bad news?
I wanted to prove, or to demonstrate.
I don't know where the dog was. I didn't hear any barking. Her name is Sunny. She was named after Santino Corleone.
To the side, in the side yard.
Hey, hi everybody, there's my Johnny. Hello, that's my Johnny.
Sunny barks if you walk by my window and sneeze. You're not really going to deny this, are you?
It's so weird. It's like the Inside Out, upside down. Narnia.
I would get at some point in a timely fashion and then turn it over.
Know if we had it enough, or we had it all, I should say.
Kill me.
Not having any observable or detectable electrical activity would be asystole.
Means death. 3 separate tab IDs. The thing he had to encourage her to do was not to testify.
You know, and Julie Albert responds to the text message from John, and she goes, "My biggest fear in life is ending up on Turtle Boy."
Stop it.
Oh, you never seen that? Oh, I gotta get you that. Let me.
Oh
yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah,
no
I gotta
way.
dig that up.
God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
People are terrified of him. They're absolutely terrified of him. And how do we know that? We know that from the mega motion. Just another day for me, right? Which means it was just not an ordinary day for somebody else. Just when you thought you were out, they pull you back in.
Karen Reed plots. She fabricates a conspiracy.
I am just a person who likes to understand. That's going to increase the likelihood that we're going to take some action.
Here she is.
Oh, I'm so sick.
Gotcha. Okay, so your sister.
My sister Jillian, yes.
Oh, it's funny. But then he's got part of his shirt untucked. His back pocket is kind of hanging out.
Testify that. So, testify that. So,
and showing solidarity. You can see them there.
It's about getting justice for John Okeefe. There clearly is an issue of integrity.
How dare they?
Justice for all. Only we have a problem here.
Mm-hmm. Welcome. This is the I Don't Belong Here show, and I am your host, Samantha Benigno. I am a behavioral scientist, a career psychotherapist, a sixth-year PhD candidate in clinical psychology, a master's level psychologist and counselor. And today we are talking, of course, about the death and hopeful one day investigation of Boston police officer John Okeefe. Welcome, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving Eve. It's a very exciting week. Thanksgiving is such a great holiday. It's like one of the better holidays, I feel like, that we have in the States. So, and I imagine with this group, you guys, any one of your tables are probably going to be a very welcome place to be with the kind of food, the spreads that are going to be laid out. So I'm sure it's going to be a busy week. I'm sure some of you are already busy cooking. It's Thanksgiving week, right? It's also like the start of the holidays, kind of officially Thanksgiving. So it's that my favorite time of the year. It's also my birthday in a few days. So right after Thanksgiving, it's just a good time of the year, right? The holidays are definitely my favorite. So happy Eve of Thanksgiving. And yeah, I mean, you guys, this case, I gotta tell you, this case is freaking insane. Okay. So, as you know, I've been working on this series, Who Killed John Okeefe, and it really has pulled me all the way back in, right? Like, I've always obviously followed this case, but being so in it again has just opened up all these different avenues. And it's like, how, Sam? How is that possible? How could we have more evidence than we already had? There's been 2 full trials, right? Karen Reed was acquitted. Like, how do we not have all the evidence there is to have? But I am convinced that you could have a full-time team working around the clock for 365 days and not get everything, because it's endless. Like, it really, really is. As soon as you kind of zoom in on a topic, and then you like really zoom all the way in, you see something and you're like, oh my God, I have seen this 1,000 times. How did I not see this? How did I not see this? And I'm going to give you the perfect example. And I promise we're not going to go too far off the rails, because we're going to get to Jen momentarily. But I have to show you this, because how I missed this for so long, I can't even, it just doesn't, it's mind boggling, right? It's totally mind boggling. So I'm not sure if this is the video or this video. Okay. So I don't know how I missed this. This is still a video. This is actually Jen McCabe's testimony. So this is direct testimony of Hank Brennan. He's showing this video. And we can thank Hank Brennan for me finally realizing this. We've had it forever. I mean, how many trials? I believe the same footage was available during trial number 1, which opens up a whole nother, series of questions about why this wasn't used in the trial, specifically for the reason that is most obvious, which is we have a very clear picture of John Okeefe's body, right? Very clear picture. Let me see if I can find it for us. So there it is. Now I will zoom in a minute for you, but you can see this is him. There he is. You can see his orange shirt. It's him on his side. So he's laying on his right side with his face facing forward, I guess. And it's very bizarre, I have to say, because all this time, there's been, throughout the entire first trial, there was all this talk and discrepancy about where the body was. And then to know that we've been sitting on these videos the whole time. And I've watched, how many times have we seen this stupid video, right? Of the dash cam footage of, whichever cop dash cam, I think this is Sharaf, pulling up to the scene. How many times have we all seen this? I mean, I have stared at this video, I don't know how many times, but never saw it. Never saw it. How is that possible? But I just didn't see it. I really wasn't looking for that. And it's an example of how easy it is to completely miss stuff because of exactly that. I'm not looking for that. I assume, oh, that's just the dash cam video that we've all seen 1,000 times. That's just Saraf driving to the scene. So like my brain fades out. Like it doesn't look at what's really there. It's the same reason that it took me forever to realize that all of these witnesses were telling a different story about the picture with the sun and the Marines, right? It was like, how many different times did we hear that stupid story before I realized I was like, oh my God, like, wait a minute. They're all saying something different about the picture with the sun and the Marines, right? Brian Albert has them upstairs in the son's room, and Brian Higgins has them in the living room looking at pictures of, Nicole is looking at pictures of Brian Sr. when he was in the Marine. I mean, it's insane. Okay. But it's one of those things that we just keep hearing it and you hear it and you hear it. And eventually you kind of like turn off because you think you know what it is. And so you stop listening. And because of that, I mean, I have to believe that is like largely why it is that there's just so much evidence that is still right in front of us. And it's wild, you guys. I'll pull it up and I'm going to pull up the better picture. I thought I had it here, but it isn't. They only give me so much room. So let me remove this little video and I'll bring up the better picture so you guys can see. Because I was like, what the? Oh my God. And you know where I got this? I got this picture from ABC. This picture was in the ABC footage of with the McAlberts, in that video where Brian Albert is like the king daddy and telling everybody what to say, right? With Matt Gutman. And they stop for 1 second on this image right in the middle of it. And I had never noticed it before. I was editing, of course, not looking for this. And it's like a flash on the screen, you guys. I mean, because, right, you've all seen that. You've all seen that same interview with them, right? With the day or two after the verdict, where they're like, oh, this is the blueprint for intimidating witnesses, the same nonsense that they're spewing now with their fundraising campaign. So this came from ABC's footage. And I don't know if I thought that was the fire hydrant at first. I think that's very likely why I didn't see it, because I kind of tuned out and was like, right? Like, do you see what I mean? Like, this looks like a fire hydrant at first. So if you're thinking fire hydrant because you saw, fire hydrant forever, you kind of, okay, there's something on the lawn that looks like a fire hydrant. You can't tell what that is. Okay. So I'll have to hide you, but okay. So remember that John had that orange t-shirt on. So these are the jeans right here. See the jeans? This is the orange shirt. And this is him. This is his body right here. Does everybody see it? This is John Okeefe. And this thing that looks like a fire hydrant is the orange shirt. And like I said, I just didn't see it. I didn't see it. In the same way that people are having a hard time seeing it right now, I didn't see it. But that's him. It's weird. He's on his side. So that's the other confusing thing about this. Now, remember in the 911 call when Jennifer says, we just turned him over. Remember that? Do I have a pointer? Can you see this? If I move this guy around the screen, can anybody see that? You can't see the cursor. Okay. So let me see how I can. Is there some kind of, I don't use StreamYard enough to know if there's like some, okay. So you see where this light is here. You see where the circle is. Okay. You see the big spotlight circle and you see that red triangle looking thing that looks like a fire hydrant. That is like the orange of John's t-shirt. He's on his side, right? Like, hey, how do I explain what I'm seeing here? How do I this it's like, okay, it's like he's in the fetal position, but his legs are extended out. Does everybody, can you see that? It's like he's on his side in the fetal position, but his legs are not pulled in like all the way. So you can, his legs are kind of pulled in, but not all the way. That's what this looks like. Right. And you notice, I just, just an observation, but there's not, doesn't appear to be any snow on that guy, does there? Does there appear to be like a mound of snow covering this person? This black blobby thing with the spotlight over it. Do you see snow there? Because I don't. His hands are, you can't see his hands as far as I can tell. So like his back is completely parallel with Carrie's car. So it's like his back is to the car, his butt is like right in front of us, and his jeans, his legs are shooting past us. So it's cut off. We only see like his thighs. Does that make sense? Can anybody see that? It took me a while to see it too, so I completely understand. Something like this thing, which I just assumed was the fire hydrant forever, totally threw my ability to see it off. And then I realized that he was wearing an orange shirt, and that's what that was. You might be able to see it better if I switch back to the video, because we're all the way zoomed in on this. And in order to see this in the video, you have to literally go like one screen at a time. So it's moving very quickly. It does not stay on this shot for long, but it is him. And the reason I discovered that he was there and that this image existed, in addition to ABC pointing it out, is because Brennan tries to screw Dr. Rentschler with this picture. So I went back, and anything with Hank Brennan is very painful to watch. It's like, it makes me like physically ill. So I don't love to do that. I don't love to sit and watch any of his testimony, whether it's on direct or cross-examination. He's just annoying. But I went back, I was looking for something specific from his cross-examination of Rentschler. And in the middle of that, Hank throws this at Dr. Rentschler to try to say that the 10 to 20 feet estimate of his body being off the road is incorrect. So he shows him this image and he says, "Have you seen this dash cam video?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm sure I have." Dr. Rentschler, "Yeah, I'm sure I have." And Hank's like, "Well, do you see this now? Do you see where the body is?" And then he's like, "You still want to stick with your 10 to 20 foot projection?" He tried like, and yes, that's exactly how far it is, right? I mean, if we're going to go ahead and assume that the car is where the road is, that's the assumption, which is, I think, a pretty safe, fair assumption, right? Carrie's pulled up in front of the house, then John is 10 to 20 feet off of the road. That's exactly where he is, right? So he doesn't change he's like, "No, that's exactly what it is." But it doesn't matter either way, because he wouldn't have been projected or, actually, if I remember correctly, you guys, the question that he asks is something about like, is a side swipe possible? I think that's where the whole line of questioning is. It's in and around, is a side swipe. Could he have been clipped? Something about being clipped. So anyway, that is how I got privy to the fact that there was an image in the world. And then I was watching this ABC footage, and that's where I got this picture. It's weird because he's on his side. So you can't really make it out beyond just seeing like the jeans and the fact that he's almost in the fetal position on his side. Something about recognizing this image, and that like there is an image of John on the lawn, makes this situation, I don't know, more real, more tangible, like helped me to get my mind wrapped around it in a different way. But it also was nuts to me because I've been asking, where was he for I don't know how long. There was all this argument in the first trial about where the body was, right? Trooper Paul has him 7 feet off the road. So, you know, I mean, it's all ridiculous anyway, but the point is that it's just like it's been right in front of us this whole time, right? You don't see that it's not okay. Okay, yes. No, that's not the fire hydrant. All right, so Sherry, let me try to bring up. I'm going to remove this. I know it takes a while to see it because it's not the fire hydrant. No, that's John. The fire hydrant. So where John is right in front of the flagpole. He's literally right in front of the flagpole. Now, you have to be careful because Adam Lally, in his whole, you know, in the games that Adam Lally likes to play, he tries to, throughout the entirety of the trial, move him over and over and over and over away from the house because, of course, he's trying to make up for the fact that they didn't hear him. They didn't hear or see, you know, they slept through it somehow. So he doesn't want them to be closer to the flagpole, but he is like literally perpendicular with the flagpole in this picture. So let me see if I can pull the video up so you guys can see. Because I know this was big for me. I was like, wait a minute, that's John. And it is him, like confirmed by, you know, the reason why this image was shown is because they were pointing out the body. So let me see if I can pull up a different, removing this, and I'll bring back the video where I might be able to get a little bit more perspective for you guys. Okay, so here's John's body video. All right, so now this is where, and Jen points it out. Okay. Wait a minute. Hold on. Sherry, I'm bringing you up, and then I'm trying to hide this just so I can show you. Okay, you ready? Now, in this image, this is being shown by Hank Brennan to Jennifer McCabe during the trial to point out where they were. So you see where the fire, this is the pole. See the pole here, flagpole. This is John. See John? That's him. Flagpole, John. Flagpole, John. Now watch, the car is going to get closer. You'll see Jen's going to point it out. There's Jen pointing out where they are, right here. So the fire hydrant is actually to the left. Do you see now? Can you guys see? Did you see him there? I know it's like all precoct. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to bring it all the way back. Okay. I believe this is the fire hydrant right here. You see this? This is the fire hydrant. I'm pretty sure this is the fire hydrant. This is the flagpole. This is John. This is Carrie's car. This is John. See, there's Karen right here. She's moving around. Okay. Did you catch it? Yes, you see it? Okay. So don't worry. I think I back up here so you can see it some more. Here it is. It's not a fire hydrant. I know it looks like it. It could be his boxers. And maybe he has like checkered boxers on. But that's him. And the way that he's laying, he's literally laying on his right side. And this blue stuff that's shooting out into the picture so we can't see, that's him. Let me see. Oh my God. How do they not give me like a pointer? Wait. No, that's not it. Oh, how do they not give me anything to point with? You gotta be kidding me. There's gotta be some way. Wait, can I now? Oh my goodness. How about notes? No, that's not it. Oh, it's maddening. Now I just can't see you guys anymore. Okay, so I'm not sure. Maybe what I'll have to do is like come back and do this again with a pointer. Hopefully you guys can see. Okay, I'm going to do it again because these are his boxers. It's his butt hanging out. This is his butt. You see what I'm saying? All right. So this is like, okay, you know, when a guy's, when like a guy's pants come down and then they like the baggy part of their boxers will hang out. I think that's what we're looking at here. Either that or it's the orange shirt and there's snow on the back of it. So it's either one or the other. I think that they have put some kind of a blanket over him. That's why we see that gray. You see the gray thing that's like, oh my God, it's really hard for me to, I don't know how to show you. Let me back this up again though, so I can show you it's not the fire hydrant. Let's go back. Okay. So we're pulling up, ready? Here's the fire hydrant right here. See how they're right in front of the flagpole. He did. She said, oh, I'm pretty sure she says, oh my God, this is a scene, but it could be insane. And thank you. Thanks, RR Orange Guy. That's so kind of you to say. It could be this is insane, but I think it's, you know why I think she says this is a scene? Because I think when she's seeing the two of them fighting on the lawn like that, her anxiety, because, okay, I'll tell you why. Right before she says, oh my God, this is a scene, she's screaming, Carrie, you got to get off of him. Carrie, you got to get off of him, hon. So she's trying to get Carrie off of John. And they're screaming at each other. And you can hear at that moment, Karen and Carrie going back and forth. You know, Karen's trying to do one thing and Carrie thinks it's not the right thing to do. And so the two of them are fighting. And at that moment, the reason why I think she says, oh my God, this is a scene, is because what she's actually concerned about is the scene. The fact that there is so much chaos and craziness going on the lawn. And this is a really important image for perspective, because remember, guys, they took advantage of us. And we're going to hear Jen in just a minute, and she's going to do it. You know, she keeps trying to move us farther and farther away. Oh, the scene was really in front of 32 Fairview. It was really more in front of 32 Fairview. Well, actually, it's right in front of the flagpole. I mean, by her own admission, she's pointing out where he is, right in front of the flagpole, which is on, guess where? Guess who's got the flagpole on their property? It's not 32 Fairview. It's actually, you know, perpendicular to the windows. It's like you could throw a rock from the flagpole to their bedroom window. So that's why I think she says, oh my God, this is a scene. I think it's indicative, because you got to keep in mind this 911 call, to me, it's the most incriminating evidence we have of Jen, because it is very, very clear that she knew he was gone. I mean, there's, like I said this a million times, there's no way. It's not possible that, like, a group of us, even if we're just acquaintances, but if all of us are out last night drinking, and then I show up at my sister's house, and my sister was at the bar with me too, and it's 6 a.m, and I see one of our acquaintances on the ground in front of my sister's house. You know, I went to college. I'm immediately going to think that person is drunk and passed out. I'm not going to be thinking, oh my God, they're dead. So my thought's going to be, get me as much help as quickly as possible. In fact, I'm more likely to try to bring someone who I suspect is dead back from the dead than I am to be comfortable with them being dead, right? And literally the first thing that Jen does is call 911. So, like, they get there, they all get out of the car, Carrie and Karen go to John, and Jen is, you know, designated to call 911. There's no time for her to have decided that he's gone. She didn't go over to John, and, you know, there's no time for her to make that determination. So the fact that she is telling the dispatch that the guy is dead multiple times, and at the very end, right before she says this is a scene, she is saying, I'm comfortable waiving CPR. And he's like, so you're not going to try CPR? She thinks they're about to hang up. And he's like, so you don't even want to try? And she's like, no, you don't understand. Like, he's gone. And she's ready to, like, that's it. We're going to hang up now. And he keeps that conversation going. I'm sure for 911, I think you're supposed to keep them. Like, if you're the 911 dispatch, I think you're trained to keep them on the phone as long as you can. So he thinks of another question. He asks, where are you? Like, so that the police can find you. And then she keeps talking. But she's, like, perfectly ready to hang up with the last thing she says is, yep, he's dead. Like, so think about it. 911 dispatch, that means these guys that are coming here to the rescue are going to prepare psychologically to help save somebody, or that this person's already gone. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's just, it's impossible. There is absolutely no world where Jennifer McCabe didn't know John Okeefe was already dead before they arrived at this house. And if I wasn't sure before, which I was, but this call, even if she had not said this is a scene, I was already sure, because the last thing I eventually heard of all of this call was this is a scene. But I really think that is what she says. And I think it's what she says because she's already made her peace with John being gone. So what she's worried about is the chaos on the lawn and them having to, come up with a story that is able to somehow make it believable that they didn't hear any of this, because she knows that they're playing asleep upstairs, right? I mean, the whole thing is insane. It really, really is. So hopefully some of that makes sense. Did you guys see it? Hopefully you did. We can come back to it because I know we want to see the Jen stuff. But just for the last time here, I'll show you one more time. Can I make this bigger? Let me take me off and see if you can. Yeah, if I do that, I don't think you can hear me, so I can't do that. That is him. You will see it eventually. It may take some time, but I promise you will eventually be able to see exactly how that is him. It is him laying on his side with his back parallel to Carrie's car. He is in almost the fetal position, although his knees are not pulled all the way up and his legs are not tucked all the way in. He has like a blanket laid over him, and we don't see his head. I don't know if that helps, but so that is John. And that is something that, again, I was not looking for. It completely emerged because I was looking for everything else. And the only reason why I even bring it up is because this case, you guys, like, the evidence is wild. It just keeps coming and keeps coming and keeps coming. It's nuts. It really, really is. All right. So we can come back to this maybe later, maybe with different eyes. You might be able to see it different. It's like, one of those puzzles or whatever, where you look at it one way and you see one thing, you look at it another way and you see something a little different. But I really do want to get to Jennifer because she's like the worst liar the world has ever seen. But man, does she give, like, she gives it her all. She really gives it her all. You got to give her credit for that. So as a reminder, so that everybody can play along at home, during her second testimony, when she is being honest, it is very short and direct answers. And I'm sure that she was told, right? Yes, no. Another thing to really look for, and this is a big indicator for her answers come right at the beginning. So she'll say yes. And if she's going to explain, she does a little short explanation. Yes, no, explanation. If it's the other way around, if she starts explaining and then gives you a yes or a no, that's deception. And it'll be obvious to you once we get there. The thing about this, and I want to show you this. So kudos to Jody, who is like the most amazing creature in the world, for sending me this. And thanks to all of you who send me stuff, because I really, really appreciate it. I'm having an email crisis, so I'm trying to bring on some help because I tried to use an AI assistant to help me organize my email, and it like hid all this stuff, and now I can't find email. It's a total disaster. So I'm working on that. So be patient. If you have emailed me, just keep trying. I promise you, if you haven't heard back from me, it's not because I don't care. It's because I'm overwhelmed and in email crisis. But nonetheless, Jody sent this to me, and I'm so appreciative of this. It is a full document of the discrepancies between Jennifer's testimony 1 and testimony 2. And I'm not going to go through all of that before we listen to her cross-examination, but I wanted to just make a few things, known. The most important things that come from this second testimony, she inflates a lot of things. I think we have to put our Jen McCabe thinking cap on before we go through this to understand what her motive is. Her motive is to put Karen Reed in jail because I think the McAlberts mistakenly believe that that would solve their problems somehow. I mean, it might help a bit, but I don't think it would have solved their problems the way that they think it would have. Because of that, though, they were very willing to be more dramatic in their presentation of evidence. And I will show you some of that with Carrie if we have time towards the end. If we don't tonight, I will absolutely do it probably Wednesday night. But she comes in with a full agenda to this second, try at it, second go at testifying. And remember, she's the only one testifying. The plan is to have Carrie and Jen do the talking, which may have been a mistake. I think if Hank Brennan could do it over, he might not have elected to have it be those two. Because, of course, Carrie's credibility was completely destroyed by Jen. And Jen and Carrie tell pretty different stories at different moments. I also want to tell you that I'm very surprised that Carrie Roberts does a lot of misrepresenting the truth in her testimony, a lot more than I would have guessed. And she's very comfortable with it, or at least somewhat comfortable with it, enough to keep doing it throughout her testimony. I have some theories about why that is, but I don't want to derail us. So she comes in with an agenda, and I want you to keep it in mind and look for that, because anytime that she's giving us information that is not asked for, you have to be asking, like, why? Why is she giving us information why is she electing to tell us something that wasn't asked of her? Because it all has a very clear motive, right? I think I see somebody saying, I hope Jen McCabe is haunted by all of this. I think she is. Carrie's deception was arguably the most shocking looking at the bunch in totality. I have to tell you, to making it count, I was very surprised by it. I recently, because I don't want to say I don't think that much of, what she offers. I don't think of her as one of the people in the house. So it's not as important, but it is important. It's very important. And she's very deceptive throughout. And not just in that one moment where, Alan Jackson catches her in a lie, but throughout, even under direct. So there's a lot of misrepresenting reality for Ms. Roberts, and I agree with you. It was surprising to me, very surprising to me, because the other ones we expect it from, right? Oh, definitely not remote. Oh, 100% at Jermaine 6. Yeah, no. I think that these people are too anxious to feel remorse. I think they're anxious, and I think they're like angry and blaming. They think this is all our fault, right? Well, if we would just go away, then they could get back to their lives as per usual. The problem is that this is evil stuff. I mean, if you think about, and part of why I think Carrie is so shocking is because, like, that was intentional. Like, Jennifer McCabe intentionally befriends Jen. Or Carrie. Sorry. She intentionally befriends Carrie and, like, brings her in so that she can get closer, I think, to the family, be closer to the DA. She uses Carrie. Carrie's the one that's hounding the district attorney for meetings and witness intimidation. That's all Carrie. Jen is, you know, can you text Steve Nelson for me? Right. It's really a mess. Not only that, I think this whole timeline nonsense, I mean, without even having to do it on purpose, you know, Carrie's mind has been influenced. Her memory even has arguably been influenced by Jennifer. How she remembers the series of events may have been absolutely influenced by Jen. And that's because of the way trauma works, right? When we experience a trauma, we will remember some things absolutely vividly and other things not at all. That's why, like, she didn't remember that she had spoke to Karen Reed more than once that morning until after she spoke with Jen and they were rehashing, trying to relive it all. I'm assuming that call is verified by their phone records. I just assume that. I've never checked. So I assume that part of her testimony was true. But it is very surprising. And no, I don't think there's any remorse at this. You know, I'm sure they're remorseful that any of this happened because it's ruined their lives. I mean, you know, maybe ruined is a strong word. I mean, they still are living lives, and that's, you know, not in prison, and there's no criminal charges being held over their head at this point. So got to be grateful for that, right? Okay, let's get started because I want to make sure we get to this. But the point is, there's a lot of intent, and we're going to hear right off the bat about her relationship with Carrie and about her relationships in general. Remember with Jennifer, when she is moving her hands. Now, I speak with my hands constantly. When she starts hand motioning, it's deceptive. Okay, so look for that. Obviously, when we're changing pronouns, and when she says, I don't recall or I don't know. So there is a lot of deception here. I mean, I went back just preliminary this morning. I was just kind of listening to it in the background. And I was like, man, this whole thing is deceptive. It's wild. So we're in for it with this. I mean, it is the real deal. And it's shocking to me. Whenever I do this, I'm always shocked because it's just outrageous. It's outrageous is what this is. So here we go. Let me get rid of this and add. There she is. There she is. Okay. I left the captions on. Sometimes they're completely wrong, but they might be helpful. If they're really annoying and you guys don't like them at all, I can turn them off.
Time and this time.
No, we've discussed the case and we've discussed what happened that moment, the moments of the morning, but we have not discussed testimony.
Okay.
Can you guys hear
let's
her?
break that down for a second. I'm talking about because
I want to make sure everybody can hear her.
I'm just asking at this point, if you'll bear with me, just the year from last year at a different proceeding to this year, you have discussed this case.
Yes.
With Ms. Roberts.
Many times, yes.
And you discussed the specifics of her memory, which would be reflected in her testimony, correct?
We talked about what happened that morning.
So you were talking about what she remembers happening that morning, correct?
No, what happened that morning.
Okay, so not to put too fine a point on it, Ms. McCabe, but if you ask me what I had for dinner last night, it's my...
Okay, one thing, you have to keep this in mind. I want you to be thinking like, I'm a completely innocent person who just went through this event. How would I answer this? If I have absolutely nothing to hide, no agenda, would I be this caught up on the way he's asking me this question? Like, would I care at all? Wouldn't I just be like, yeah, okay, yeah, fine, my memory, who cares? Right?
Memory of what I had for dinner last night. Would you agree to that?
Sustained.
Did you talk about her perception of what happened that morning during the last year?
We've talked about what has happened, yes.
Okay. So I'm trying to break it down between you and Ms. Roberts. You've discussed her perceptions and her memory of what happened, as well as, and separate and apart from, your memory and your perceptions, correct?
Correct.
So there have been circumstances in which you and Ms. Roberts have compared by definition what she remembers versus what you remember, correct?
I wouldn't say compare.
Now let's move to what would you say in terms of what you've discussed and why?
I would say that we've both talked about what we've discussed, but it wasn't like a comparison. We weren't comparing anything.
You've talked about what you discussed. What does that
Okay,
mean?
so there are a few things I want to point out. The jury is on her left, our right. So when she looks maybe towards us, that's the jury. But I want you to notice when she looks the other way, we don't get to see exactly who she's looking at, but make no mistake, she's looking at Brennan to help her. And she does it a lot. So if you really watch her eyes closely, whenever she gets stuck, and throughout this testimony, it gets more bold and more blatant. She really starts looking like, even before she will answer, she just looks at him. And then he has to find some way to stall. He either objects without there being any reason to, or he comes up with like, oh, what page are we on? He kind of stumbles to try to give her more time. It's wild. So watch her eyes carefully. Also remember her sister is over on the other side. And remember John's family is over on the other side, right? Just past the lawyers. That's important too, because who is this performance really for? I mean, she really wants Karen to be in jail. But remember, I mean, she's got to sell this because John's family is in the room. They're there, sitting there. It's wild.
Talked about your testimony?
No, we've discussed what happened to that moment, and in those moments. So, when I got a phone call, and that's my story. That's my
wow.
I got a phone call in the morning, and then Carrie can say, "Yeah, I got a phone call as well."
As you said, that's your story, correct?
Not my story.
Oh my God! Did everybody just see what happened there? Like, you can't even get seconds in. This entire thing, okay? Notice she's trying to be very careful about every word that comes out of her mouth. So this is like we talked about. The elephant is in the room, and your mind is going, okay, don't mention the elephant. You can mention anything else, but don't mention the elephant. And so, of course, you have to be really careful and think and try not to say elephant, right? Try not to mention trunk and not to mention like any of the things around the elephant. And that's exactly what she's doing here. And in doing that, because she's not focused, she's focusing on, I don't want to say this. So then all these other words start coming out of her mouth and she starts giving stuff up. It's called leakage. So she says, story, my story, my story. It's like, yeah, we do know, actually. We do know you're telling a story. It's okay. We know.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
Okay.
Now,
so
one thing that I also want to make very clear, honest people, they really don't say things like, it's the truth. Now, why is that? Why don't honest people say things like that? Because they assume that you know that. Like when we're telling the truth, most of us project our experience onto everybody. So if we're being honest in this moment, in the here and now, if we're being honest, then we expect that everybody around us knows that and is likely honest too. If, however, let's say I'm cheating on my partner or I've got wandering eyes, John and Karen might be a good example, then I'm going to start to get paranoid that my partner might be cheating too. Right? So if your partner starts accusing you of cheating, be very aware because it's not good. It's not a good thing. It means that they're probably, at the very least, their eyes are wandering.
Since when you got a phone call at 4:53 in the morning, Carrie Roberts wasn't there, correct?
Correct.
But you've discussed that with her.
Correct.
And you've told her what your perception of that, your memory of that phone call was, even though she was not recipient to and did not witness that phone call, correct?
I've told her about the phone call, correct?
As well as many other details that she was not privy to personally, correct?
Correct.
Conversations that you've had, for instance, conversations that you claim you've had with Miss Reed, correct?
Correct.
And you've told her what your perception is of those conversations, or your memory was or is of those conversations with Miss Reed, correct?
Which conversations with Miss
Any
Reed?
conversations, just anything that she wasn't privy to. You've discussed that with her.
Some things, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
And conversely, Ms. McCabe, obviously, she's also discussed certain perceptions and memories that she has about this case and the facts of this case, as she recalls them, that you were not necessarily privy to, correct?
Yes.
Things that may have taken place outside your presence, correct?
Correct.
And you've talked about things, she's talked to you about things, now I'm getting myself confused. Y'all have talked about things that were outside of her perception and outside of your perception. And you've shared those with each other.
We've shared our experiences. We've become very close. We both lived through a traumatic experience.
How many times?
All right. Okay. So we have the one-sided shoulder shrug there. Okay. Now we start to hear the rehearsed statements. So there we had Jen McCabe's rehearsed statement for her and Carrie Roberts, right? They shared this traumatic experience together. And that's like the line. She's like a doll, and you push that button and that's what comes out. This is one of her little rehearsed lines. Yeah, we're bonded because of this case. We shared this traumatic experience together. I will tell you, and I've said this before, I do believe that is part of why Carrie is so bonded to her, because from Carrie's view, they did share a traumatic experience. And you have to also remember the reason that Carrie and John were originally bonded, the way they became friends was to rally because of another traumatic experience. Remember that Carrie's whole thing is, John's sister and brother-in-law passed away, and they all stepped up to help him, right? Because now he was Mr. Mom. It was like a bad plot of a movie. And now she was, her and her husband were jumping in and they were taking Patrick, right? So remember, that's important too. It's like doubly traumatizing for Carrie to lose John the way that she did, because what brought them together was traumatic. So what's the best and most evil way to take advantage of that vulnerability? Well, to befriend them and to say, I know what you're going through because I went through it too. And I'm the only other person in the world, Carrie, who knows what you went through. That is what Jen is selling to Carrie. That is why Carrie's lying to hide stuff from us to try to save her. The whole reason why Carrie is lying throughout her testimony is to protect Jen. And I will throw something out there. I cannot verify this, and I do not know this to be true. But I saw Emily C. Hi, Emily C. I saw Emily C. mention the phone, and that she showed on her YouTube presentation a few nights ago. She showed that there was that clip where Carrie says to Hank that she picks up the cell phone, John's cell phone. We know she didn't at that moment because we can see she grabs the blankets but doesn't have a phone in her hand. The phone starts moving earlier than that. I think it was 6:03 that the phone starts moving again. So who shows up at 6:03 and might have moved the phone? Right? Just a thought. Just some ideas. There's only 3 options, and we know it wasn't Karen, right? Certainly we would have heard about it if it was. So keep that in mind as we go through this. Who probably picked up that phone, and why would Carrie say she did it? Well, like I said, remember, Carrie is now bonded to Jen, and we have very clear evidence that she is going to go to hell and back to protect Jen.
You say you and Miss Roberts have discussed your individual perceptions of what you remember happening on the 28th or the 29th. of January 2022? How many times?
It would be hard to put a number on that. We talk about, it's hard. We're bonded. We talk about the trauma that we relive every day. Karen called us for help and we both answered the phone.
And that bonding is
there you are.
The glue that holds you two together. Is this case, correct?
Good point.
Yes.
So that probably, by definition, is the foundation of many of your conversations. Will you agree?
We've grown into friends where we talk about many other things besides the case.
Sure.
That's true.
Last weekend and what the kids really yesterday.
Yes, and yes, absolutely. We talk many different things, just like girlfriends do.
So then she had to throw that last part in.
The subject matter of this case.
All right. Did everybody see the transition? We went from honest Jen to then she went into, her actress mode right at the end. If she just had left that off, you see it that last bit, she's got to sell it to us. So the first part of that, like, yeah, we're friends. Like we've grown into friends. Okay, that was true. I mean, certainly we all know that's true. But then that last bit where her face completely changes. And then she gives us like the Jen McCabe, like selling face. And it's like, it suddenly goes from being an honest thing to now having an ulterior motive. And that's part of why we start picking up on indicators. If she just didn't do that.
Details and facts of this case. You two have probably talked hundreds of times, that's fair to say, about your individual perceptions, your respective perceptions.
100%.
Correct?
This happened 3 years ago, and we've talked about it time and time again. This case has traumatized us, so
And
it's a huge
talking
part of our lives.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, it's fine.
I'm sorry. It's fine. Remember, people that apologize a lot, just from statistically, people that apologize a lot throughout their testimony tend to be folks who are generally lying, guilty, deceptive. But here we are again. Yep, we're bonded over this. And I want to just point out, yeah, absolutely. I don't think Carrie even realizes how Jen molded her. Absolutely, she does not. In fact, the way Jen tells the story, it's really interesting. And it's also very intentional. She tries to make throughout Jennifer's direct testimony, I think this is specifically in the second trial, but I'm not 100% on that. She tries to sell it that Carrie was in charge the whole time. That, Carrie's a take charge kind of girl. And so she was in charge that whole morning as they rode around from Jen's house to One Meadows to Fairview. Jen makes a point on direct with Hank to keep pointing that out. I wasn't in charge. I had no say in where we were going. No, I didn't know where we were going to go. It was all on Carrie. And you can see that that's like, she keeps doing that. That she does that same thing when she lies about the text messages to the the minion group, where she's like, she's telling them everything. And then she makes up some ridiculous, like she could care less about what Carrie tells the cops, that Karen was just a babysitter with benefits or something. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. I know, because you're such a good Christian woman, right? That was so appalling for you, Jen. Like, okay. It's just so unbelievable, right? Yes, right. Exactly. So she says the same thing about why she was at Proctor's house talking to Lizzie. She also says the same thing about Lank's house, right? It was Carrie that dragged her to Lank's. Even though the day before, Nicole is texting Jen saying, oh, we'll get a lot of information tomorrow when you go to wherever, right? It's like, it's just, oh my God, it's so bad. It's just so bad, right? It's so bad. It's just so telling. So telling. Hold on, you guys, I'm trying. Okay. How do I spell this? Fracka sends $10. Says in your last video, you replayed the waterfall video from Microdots. Nicole Alberts walked out of the bar with a glass in her hand. Of course she did. That was the first time I noticed that detail. I could say a lot right now. That's very funny. I didn't even notice that. You know why? Because I was too busy looking at her pointing at John, right? You remember in that same video, it's a long sequence, and I kept it long on purpose because there's a lot to see there. There's a lot for us to look at in that little exchange. I mean, there's a lot going on in that exchange. A couple of things that I hadn't seen before. Caitlin is in front, right next to them. So she sees whatever happened, most likely. Chris, of course, sees what happened. And now we know Nicole and Brian Albert, whatever was going down with Brian Higgins and whatever his intentions were with John Okeefe, those two were 100% aware of it and trying to encourage it. Come on, come on. So, but I didn't notice that either. I was so busy looking at her finger. I didn't notice she was walking out with a glass. Does that surprise us? Absolutely not. Of course, these people are drinkers. That's what they do, right? This is a drinking community. It's like part of the wallpaper in Canton.
And I believe it's very funny. Traumatized our lives.
Okay. It would be impossible for you two to have had so many conversations about your respective perceptions of the details of that day without that influencing the other person, correct? You've somehow been influenced by Miss Roberts's perceptions and her memories, correct?
I don't think I would say influenced.
Would you say that she's been influenced by your perceptions and your memories?
Objection. Would you say that, Ms. McCabe?
No, I wouldn't.
Next question.
How many times have you met with
Totally
anybody from the DA's office? And I'm just going to limit the time frame right now in anticipation of your appearance in this trial yesterday and today.
I'd say.
I also want to tell you, just because I don't want to forget, one of the questions that was the most surprising that Carrie was dishonest on going through her testimony was, did you speak to Jen about your testimony before you testified today? Remember, because I can't remember whether when Carrie testifies, she says she spoke to Jen that morning or the night before. I can't remember which, but she's deceptive about whether or not they spoke about her testimony, what she was going to say. Clearly, it was a clear indicator. So just keep that in mind, because of course they're trying to say, oh, good luck. You know, I'm here for moral support. Of course, I'm not influencing what you say. Of course, we're not talking about what we're going to say. We would never do that. Of course not.
Roughly 4 or 5.
Can you give me a time frame when those 4 or 5 meetings were?
I don't have dates. I do remember at one point I met with Mr. Brennan. He was new to the case. So I went in and he introduced himself.
How long ago was that? Weeks or months?
And maybe I can't give you a time frame. I'm sorry.
Do you think it was last summer?
No.
Do you think it was?
No, it was more recent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
in the
interesting.
fall of last year.
No.
It was in 20.
So when Jennifer says, I can't give you a time frame, I'm sorry, it means literally what she's saying. Like, I can't because I can't. Like, someone is prohibiting me from telling you the answer to this question. And so it's interesting that she's saying it in reference to how many meetings have you had with the DA's office. Just a note, right? I mean, not surprising, but interesting.
25 sometime?
I believe so, yes.
You think it might have been February, January?
Again, I can't give you an exact. I'm sorry.
All right. I want to talk about the time frames of those conversations, and I'll ask you a little bit more about those conversations. So that was the first meeting that you had was with Mr. Brennan in anticipation of your testimony. What were the subsequent 4 meetings or so that you had? With whom and approximately what time?
Okay, so another meeting with Mr. Brennan. Are you looking for who was
Sure.
there?
Who else was there?
I mean, can I give you a general answer? I didn't write down like every meeting who was there, but
Of course.
generally. Okay.
Was Mr. Lowley there?
During 1 or 2 of the meetings, he was, yes.
Was Ms. McLaughlin there?
Yes.
Was there anybody else from the DA's office there?
The officer or trooper Tully was there at one. Trooper Buchanan was there at one. The witness advocates were there. And again, give or take the particular meeting.
Those are 2 meetings that you've talked about with Mr. Brennan and others. What about the third meeting?
No, I'm sorry. I was lumping a few of them together.
Sure, understood.
I apologize.
How many meetings would you have? Let's just start there. How many meetings have you had with Mr. Brennan and either staff or colleagues?
So after the first initial meeting, I would say, again, I didn't write them down off the top of my head. I can think of 2 or 3 more after that.
Okay.
Excuse me, first initial one.
It's a strange thing to say. Again, I didn't write them down. Why would you say that? Like, if you had written them down, would that have helped you to remember them now? What does writing them down? You know what I'm saying? Like, so this kind of statement, she's like not with it 100. You know what I mean? She's not really listening to the questions and trying to answer them. She's just trying to get him to go off this topic. She's trying to say anything she can to move this discussion away. She's not actually thinking, what's the answer to this question so that I can answer it authentically? She's trying to come up with a way to shut down Alan Jackson so that we can move off to another topic. And you can see that she's starting to get bothered by the fact that he's not moving on, that we're still on this topic. You can feel the stress. It's like mounting, right? Asheron Fish sends $10, says, so I didn't see this. Didn't see your WF video yet. Did you notice Jen went over and got John Okeefe's attention when Higgins was yelling? That I didn't even notice. I had seen John's reaction quite clearly. He does the little dance, like, drinks the beer. But I do not remember Jen going over to John and then Chris and Jen having a discussion. So as soon as we're done here tonight, that's something that I will definitely try to look for, because that is very, very interesting. So what you're implying is that everybody but Karen and John essentially knew something was up. That is, I think, what you're saying, right? That they all knew something was up. It's a real possibility. One thing, it has been suggested, and I think we talked about it here a few times, the possibility that maybe Jen is trying to separate Karen from John so that everybody can tell John about Brian Higgins and Karen having texted. That this was like an intervention almost, because I guess their loyalty would have naturally been with John. I don't know. I don't know. It does seem as though Chris wanted no part of it. And that's sort of what the body language of Chris Albert does indicate from what we can see, that he's like trying to stop it. And I will also tell you that just from having listened through their testimony, it's clear that when the topic of the waterfall comes up for all of the witnesses that we just talked about, they all are deceptive about whether there was conflict at the waterfall. There's all these tells in the way that they, are using language and in their body language when we're talking about the waterfall at a time when there shouldn't be, right? So it wouldn't surprise me if they all knew, including Jen. Wouldn't surprise me.
So that's either 4 or 5 meetings with Mr. Brennan and some combination of his colleagues, Mr. Lally, Ms. McLaughlin, perhaps, Mr. Nelson, perhaps, the other employee of the DA's office, and Troopers Buchanan and Trooper Tully.
Correct.
You asked questions about at any of these meetings. I'm just going to lump them all together. Any of these 5 meetings. By the way, when was most recent?
Last night, I had a Zoom call in regards, I think the court asked them to.
Yes, I'm going to stop you right there.
Does anybody remember what this was about?
If you don't mind, I'm just going to
I feel like I knew, but I don't remember now.
Okay.
You had a conversation last night. I'm not interested in that particular conversation. That was for a very specific purpose. I'm asking you about everything leading up to, but not including last night's conversation, okay?
Okay.
So let's just leave that one out. You've had, I think you mentioned either 4 or 5 other meetings with Mr. Brennan and some combination of his colleagues and or law enforcement.
Yeah, and I might have in the 5 included that one from last night.
Okay, fair enough.
I actually want to make a point about this. Twigs, this is an important point, I think. Even in the last 24 hours, I've had people ask me, why hasn't anybody come forward? Like, why hasn't any of the cops come forward? Why hasn't someone in the family outed everybody? Well, if you think about who's really involved in this, they all have incredibly self-interest in not doing that. I mean, anybody, the DA, okay, Morrissey's office are the cops who we're talking about. So the Massachusetts State Police most involved work for the district attorney himself. And it was his direction that they were following. And the other part of it is that they have personal investments. So, for example, one of the things that was very clear, and I did an analysis of Yuri Buchanan's 3 days on the stand. I watched them very, very closely. And one thing that came through loud and clear, number one, he is personally has deep feelings for Michael Proctor. This was his partner. He loves him. And number two, he did not believe it was right that Proctor was held out as the fall guy. And when I went back and watched Proctor's testimony, there are all these moments where Proctor takes the hits for the department. There's a lot of times, for example, with the evidence log, right? So he lies on a number of occasions throughout his testimony to save other people's behinds. And it's clear. That is like absolutely clear as you go back and watch Proctor now. So I think Buchanan feels like Proctor was wrongfully terminated and wrongfully held out by the department as the fall guy, that they let it happen. Of course, they didn't have a choice because Noble's group came in and fired him. And then, of course, his final text message disaster just destroyed took him down, single-handedly. Didn't matter in the end. But I think that's another reason why, right, these guys, there's all these personal interests in not talking. Now, the one person who I think could easily rat everybody out is Proctor because he's the one who has the most to gain. Like, he's lost everything. But he's so personally connected to these guys. Like, he loves Yuri Buchanan. He's going to out Buchanan. He's going to ruin Buchanan's life. Also, remember, his sister is best friends with Julie Albert. Like, you see what I mean? These people are so, like, interwoven. You have to remember that. Like, that's part of why this happened to begin with and how they got away with it for as long as they have. They're so connected. We're talking about siblings, like Nicole and Jen are sisters. Then you have Brian, and I do believe Colin was in the house. I know a lot of people don't. I absolutely think he was there. I don't know if he was a part of the murder, but I know he was in the house just from his testimony and all of the lying that people do in and around that testimony. So he was definitely there. Some people believe that Chris and Julie were actually at the house, and I'm not 100% sure one way or the other about that part. I've not investigated it closely enough to say, but the reason why nobody has folded is because of their personal relationships. Even Julie Nagel is so personally connected to these people. Like, if you don't understand that, go back and watch the Aiden video where Jill Daniels grabs his phone and like hits Aiden and she takes his phone from him. If you watch that whole video, you'll see exactly what I mean. She's like one of them. She's like the goons outside. She's one of the goons outside waiting for Aiden to come out of the restaurant. I don't know what their plan was, but so that's exactly right. There are a lot of very personal interests here, and that's why nobody's come forward. And Canton's a small community.
Were you asked questions in those, we're just going to call them four meetings. Were you asked questions during those 4 meetings about your testimony at the first proceeding last year?
I reviewed I did review some of my testimony. Yes.
In what format?
I
Just
watched
paper
it.
transcript or?
No, we just watched a little bit of it.
Do you watch your direct examination?
A little bit, yes.
Did you watch your cross-examination?
A little, yes.
Who cross-examined you?
You did.
That was me.
Yes.
And did you watch the redirect or any
You
part of it?
did.
No.
Did you watch any part of any subsequent version of recross or additional questions that you were asked?
I don't believe so, no.
Was there a specific area that Mr. Brennan asked you to look at and review in terms of your direct or your cross-examination?
No.
Did you watch the entirety of the direct examination and the entirety of the cross-examination?
I do not believe so, no.
Were you questioned by Mr. Brennan following your review of that direct and cross-examination?
No.
So he didn't ask you any questions about any of your answers?
So these answers are not. She's giving.
He showed me a dash cam and would ask me to point out who's this, who's that, a waterfall video, is this you, is this somebody? Those are the type of questions that he asked me.
What about any discussion about your demeanor and how you performed in the last proceeding? Objection.
Sister.
I'll ask it a different way. What about your demeanor? I'm using probably a poor word, perform. How you came across your demeanor in the last proceeding? Objection. Sister. Did you discuss changing your demeanor in any way, shape, form, or fashion from the last trial to, the last proceeding to this trial, my mistake. From the last proceeding to this trial, was your demeanor ever discussed?
No, I was just told to slow down, answer the question, and, answer it to the best of my memory.
Was there any discussion about?
Yeah, that's a good point. Cam C777. I apologize a lot when I'm intimidated. Years of gaslighting, knee-jerk reaction makes you apologize for breathing. Absolutely. And you have to remember that the reason why when we first started, I pulled up sort of her indicators is because, it seems like we're kind of evaluating everybody equally, but she has very specific indicators, ways that she tells the truth and ways that she doesn't. So we know just from doing this for a very, very long time and having spent hours and hours and hours on this woman, kind of what her baseline is. And we also know just statistically that when people are deceptive, they also apologize. But it doesn't mean that because somebody's apologetic that they're lying. I want to be very clear about that. I was not suggesting that. And you're right. There are so many other reasons why somebody might apologize. And people are apologetic. Some people just are like that. Everything they say, they apologize for, right? So yeah, it does not necessarily mean inherently that there's deception afoot. In her case, we just know what her indicators are. So we're able to say definitively there is deception, and also she is doing the apologizing thing. But you're right. It doesn't inherently mean anything. In fact, none of these things mean anything, right? Just like the talking with the hands, that's how I am. I move, I talk. Normally when I give presentations or speeches or whatever, I am physically moving. I can't do that with this. So I have to use my hands instead. But when she does, it's clear that she's fabricating. She uses it to almost conjure a story in real time, not to remember a story and then try to make a point, right? It's interesting. But I think I'm glad you said that because it is important to point out that not all of these things are indicative of deception in general. Absolutely not. I don't know why. How did I miss these? Anybody who's newly a member, welcome.
About talking about your background, for instance, your family and your children and being a sports mom, as you talked about in your direct examination.
No, I believe I did that in the previous one as well.
Was there any discussion about crafting your testimony in any way to suggest a softer approach?
No.
Was there any discussion about how to develop your testimony from beginning to end? Okay.
Sustained.
Did Mr. Brennan ask you about, or let me ask it a different way. Did Mr. Brennan take you through a series of questions, for instance, as almost a test run of questions that you might be asked either in direct examination or cross-examination?
No.
Did you practice your testimony with any member of the DA's office?
No.
Were there any sessions where you sat and was subjected to a cross-examination, like a fake cross-examination or a fake direct examination?
No, that
Anything
wasn't.
like that?
No.
What were the things that stand out in your mind?
Why do you guys
said you had
think-
at least 4 meetings. How long was each meeting?
Why is he asking so many questions about this? Why do you think Jackson is so interested in the meetings that she had with the DA's office and what went on in those meetings? What do you think the purpose of this is? Because for me, it's kind of like a little bit boring. Feels like he's like kind of beating a dead horse. So what is he achieving in all of this? I would love to know what your thoughts about that are. Thanks, Jerry D. Of course. Yay. Oh, me too. I hope so too. And maybe we'll actually see some justice. Wouldn't that be this year? Certainly not anytime soon, but this year.
By the way, ish.
The first meeting I think was fairly quick. It was just the introduction.
30 minutes, less than 30 minutes?
I don't want to give a time because I'm not sure.
Okay.
But it was fairly quick, yes.
Okay. What about the second meeting?
Again, I don't know specific meetings, but I can tell you that there was a longer one where I did watch some dash cam video, look at different pictures, things like that.
What kind of pictures did you look at? Other than the dash cam video?
The pictures of John's house.
Okay. The same photos that we saw today?
Yes.
How long in total would you say all of those meetings were? Just taking them all together.
I really can't give you I really can't give you an estimate. I think the first one was fairly quick. The second one, one of them was a little bit longer, maybe a couple hours.
Okay. Then the third one, was that also a couple hours, or was that one fairly quick?
That was fairly quick, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So fair to say between 2, 3, 4 hours total meeting times?
Again, I'd have to probably go back and look at the date and the time. I really can't give you a specific amount of time. I apologize.
Yeah, so what she's saying is, please, for the love of God, Alan Jackson, move off of this topic because I can't, for whatever reason she's got in her mind, I'm not able, I'm being prohibited by somebody else not to tell you the answer to these questions. Okay.
Trooper Tully or Trooper Buchanan ask you any questions during the course of any of these meetings?
Regarding the case, no, but we did briefly talk about how my kids were, how their kids were.
But they didn't ask you any questions about your testimony, about your about the case, about your memories, about specific facts?
I do not believe so, no.
During any of these meetings, was anybody taking notes?
Seems like a
Mr.
counterproductive thing to
Rowley,
mention, but
Brennan,
okay.
Any of the troopers?
No, I don't believe so.
So there was several hours worth of meetings with you, and nobody scribed any notes that you saw.
Yes. So I just want to mention this. Iron Chef number 7 or -7 sends 499 says Sergio said his mentor said people who talk about brushing their teeth are like having an affair cheating. Right. Exactly. I think that's hilarious. Another thing that people who talk about showering or doing laundry or cleaning, a lot of times it's like they have a guilty conscience. There's just statistically evidence that people who talk about like bathing, one of the ways that came up was with Wendy Adelson during her police interview, that like 5-hour, marathon police interview just before she leaves the house. She talks a lot about, showering and cleaning and like all those things at the same time. So yeah, it's strange, right? Like, why would that be the thing? I don't know, but it is interesting. I could come up with some, theories about why, but it is interesting.
None that I saw, no.
And these meetings were not recorded?
I do not believe so, no.
Okay, so maybe that's what that was about, right? Maybe what Alan Jackson is pointing out is that, okay, so you've had all these meetings, but nobody was taking notes and nobody recorded any of those meetings. Like, right? Like maybe, okay, maybe that's part of it. Maybe he's also just trying to make sure the jury understands that she has these relationships with the district attorney's office and with all the other cops and investigators. Those would all be valid, right?
Ms. McCabe, I'm going to ask you a series of questions about your family because I just want to make sure it's crystal clear who's who. You're married to Matt McCabe, correct?
Yes.
Your sister is Nicole Albert.
Yes.
Nicole is married to Brian Albert.
Yes.
It was Brian Albert's home that you were at 34 Fairview that you arrived at where John's body was found, correct?
Yes.
The same home where that late night gathering was on January 28th going into the morning of the 29th, correct?
Yes.
Would you consider yourself to be close with your sister Nicole and Brian?
Yes, very close.
Your families, it's not just you and Nicole, your whole families are close, correct?
Yes, we have a very close family.
How long have you known Brian Albert?
Since I was in kindergarten.
You consider him, even though he is not blood related to you, you consider him family?
Yes.
In addition to Brian and Nicole Albert, you're also...
Just want to point out something about this. My understanding, she's considerably younger, right? I mean, she must be pretty considerably. So Brian Albert is like 9 years older than her. I might be a little off there. Maybe it's closer to 7, but I think he's mid 50s, right? And she's closer to mid to later 40s. So she might have known him since kindergarten, but he would have been a little bit older than her, I think. I'm pretty sure. Because he's the oldest of his clan. And I say that because the look on her face, here's what I want to say. There is no question that like he is a big brother, not an authority figure for her, but someone who, right, she does look to for direction, for guidance, for safety, right? So he is somebody that she 100% trusts. Kindergarten is a long time to know somebody, not to mention the fact that he also went on to marry her sister, and they have been in a relationship, Nicole and Brian, since I believe like middle school. Like at least I know Nicole was, wanting to be in a relationship with him since she was like in the 8th grade or something. So certainly Brian is a very big figure for Jen. It's important because again, if anybody has this idea that someday Jen's just going to like, go to the police, I mean, which is absurd, right? Because where are you going? Like he is the police.
Very close with Chris and Julie Albert, correct?
Yes.
Just to be clear, and I'm going to do this slowly, okay. Brian Albert's younger brother is Chris Albert, correct?
Yes.
Chris Albert is married to Julie Albert.
Yes.
You consider Chris and Julie family, even though there may not be a blood relation as well, correct?
Yes.
Chris Albert is a Canton Select Board member, is that right?
Now he is, yes.
And
that's a huge point, everybody, huge point. Chris Albert is a Canton Select Board member. Jen thinks she's doing a good thing by pointing out now he is, yes, as in her focus is on, well, he wasn't back then. But what that indicated when I heard that the first time was, okay, now he is. So there's a clear like line of demarcation for this group between the death of Boston police officer John Okeefe before and after. And in the after part, Chris Albert runs to be the select board member, part of the group that oversees the police department in town, right? So if you are someone like Chris who wants no part of leaving town, remember, He is a fixture in the town of Canton. His pizza shop has been there for 25 years. He's a social guy. He is always there. If you want to go, have a meet and greet with Chris Albert, he's at the pizza shop in Canton. He's probably there 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, right? You would think some 13-year-old kid would be working the register. Probably 50-50 shot that if you go there at any time, any day, he's in there. Why? Because he probably loves the social piece of it. It's like a place for him to hang out with his friends and chat, right? If you walk in there, that's exactly the vibe. It's sports radio is playing, it's like a hang place. So my point is, he loves that town. He did not want to leave. So his thinking is, rather than abscond, how can I ensure the safety of my family, right, without becoming a police officer myself? Okay, well, I'll run for local select board. I'll run to be part of the town politics. And just so happens that one of the things we do is make decisions about the police department, right? So it's like having an inside direct line and authority over the cops. And it's like a perfect way to try to secure yourself and your family if what you care about is staying in town and continuing to be a part of that in a way where you keep yourself and your family safe, right? So to me, it was a really smart idea. And actually, I'll give these people credit. A lot of their ideas have been smart. Jen is no dum-dum. I mean, she's not stupid, although she's not great at testifying. She's not stupid.
Canton, that's in Canton. I said select board member. Did I mention Canton select board member?
It is in Canton, yes.
All right. Obviously, it's in Canton. The Canton Police Department.
That was a real
reports to the
authentic
select
laugh,
board,
right?
correct?
I'm not aware.
You're not aware of that echelon?
No.
Okay.
Right. Of course.
You're aware that Brian Albert, your friend of, I'm not going to say how many years, but since kindergarten, was a Boston police officer.
Yes.
He had been a lifetime law enforcement officer for some 30 years before he retired recently, correct?
Yes.
He's a trained first responder, obviously.
Yes.
Brian Albert and Chris Albert have another brother named Kevin Albert, correct?
Yes.
Kevin Albert is a detective with a police department, correct?
Yes, I believe that's his title. I'm not 100%.
Which police department is Kevin Albert associated with?
Canton.
When she says I'm not 100%, that's deceptive. Couple things about this. I just want to make this very clear. Brian Albert is not just a cop for 30 years with the Boston Police Department. He was like a big, well-known, well-established, and elite cop. I know he was on Boston's Finest, but he was also part of the team that, was working on that Boston Strangler case. That was a big deal when he helped to uncover, got the DNA and ultimately found, at least one of the people that were involved. Some people believe it was a group of people, whatever. But, he was handpicked to then go ahead and choose a group of guys, whoever he wanted, to be a part of this elite force. And I think even Twigs, you and I spoke about this, he was a big deal. And that's not something that we can overlook. If you're trying to understand what happened here and who had power and where it was coming from, you got to look first at Brian Albert, because he was a very well-known and well-established figure in law enforcement in and around Boston, not just in Canton, but in and around Boston. Then locally, Kevin Albert was beloved. I mean, the people that worked with Kevin Albert loved him so much, they couldn't hide their affection for him when they're testifying, right? No matter how bad it looks, they just sing his praises, he's the best detective we have while they're testifying. So at these completely inappropriate times where it makes no sense at all for them to then go ahead and tell us that, they can't help it because that's how they feel about him, right? So that tells you everything you need to know about Kevin Albert, how he is considered, by his peers. And those were the people that work with him directly saying those things about him. Later on in this testimony, Jen does give up the goods that he was at 34 Fairview during the Minion meeting. So just keep that in mind. Kevin Albert was And it's confirmed by Jennifer at the meeting the morning after they find John. So at 34 Fairview, they all come back together to do their strategizing, whatever, and Kevin Albert is there without a doubt. People are often willing to lie because they believe they're lying for good. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, a lot of the people, not everybody. Look, there's two different groups of actors in this. This is where like, one of my next video is on the Occam's razor. This idea that like the simplest explanation is always the right one, and using that as a way to try to rationalize that Karen Read is responsible for the death of John Okeefe. You can't apply a theory to something enormous and then try to extrapolate what the simplest explanation is, right? That's just not how it's meant to be used. And we're going to talk more about that at a different time. But the point is, there are two separate groups of actors here. There are people with intent who are very aware of what actually happened on that night and who are doing everything they can to not get in trouble for it. Then you have a group of people who believe through and through, some of them, that Karen Read is responsible for the death of John Okeefe, like the Okeefe family, like some of the friends of John, right? Like John Jackson and Brendan Kane and Tara, whatever her last name is, right? And Carrie Roberts. Now, I believe Carrie thinks Karen, whatever happened by accident. I don't believe Carrie thinks Karen intentionally tried to hurt John. Based on some of the things that she has said, it indicates to me that she thinks there was an accident, or at least that she doesn't want to assign intent for whatever. She doesn't want to be a bad guy. I don't know why, but that's the sense that I get from Carrie Roberts. So they're not all the same, right? Some people know exactly what happened and are trying to protect themselves. Others are completely duped and believe, like if you heard Paul O'Keefe, yeah, I don't want to say, God bless Aiden. I do not want to shit all over the family. They are what they are. Paul was probably given a lot of gifts, but one of them was not like the highest IQ, or he's not the most sophisticated of individuals. Fine, I'm sure he wouldn't argue he was, but that I think is problematic. As Paul is talking in one of these interviews about the evidence in the case, he actually doesn't even know when they found evidence. Like, he doesn't even have the evidence straight in his mind. It's very clear. So, right? I mean, look, Karen also didn't help herself that morning because she immediately wasn't sure if she was involved. See, that's another thing. My belief, based on everything I've seen from Karen and based on her personality and character, that she wasn't sure. And the reason why she behaved strangely and was carrying a sense of guilt when she walked in that house was because she had been in a brownout the night before and really didn't know whether or not she did see him walk in. She didn't know whether her taillight was hit because she just didn't know. I think she was scared. She didn't know. And because she didn't know, she was carrying that guilt. And the way that I understand who Karen is as a person, it lines up perfectly that she would have immediately assumed guilt. Like, it makes total sense, right? So for me, I never asked the question of why would she say, could she have hit him? Because I understood immediately who Karen was. Why do I know that? I don't know. It's just, after many years of working with people, you just know something somehow. And that is immediately, once I got a sense of who Karen Read was, it was clear to me that the reason why she would have thought right away that she might be responsible is because of the kind of personality that she has. Right? So I never questioned that. The big X factor about whether or not somebody would try to run their boyfriend over is evidence of a history of violence or violence under the influence of alcohol. And because we can't check that box, there is just no way that Karen Read intentionally hurt John Okeefe. I mean, it just didn't happen, right? So we can just, we can get past that, right? We're all past that. But I just want to make the point that I still believe she probably did not know in the very early days whether she was involved. And that's why the Okeefe family immediately jumped to, oh, she did it. She's responsible.
And you've grown up in Canton your whole life, you indicated.
Yes.
Your entire family has grown up in Canton, correct?
Yes.
And you, Ms. McCabe, have 3 sisters. Nicole, we've talked about. You also have a sister named Shelley, is that right?
Michelle, yes.
Michelle?
Mm-hmm.
And Denise, who you mentioned in your direct examination.
Look at her face.
Nicole is also known by nickname, is that right?
Yes.
What is Nicole's nickname within the family?
Coco.
Does Shelley also have a nickname? Well, I guess Shelley is the shortened name for Michelle, correct?
Yes.
What about Denise?
She's Dee Dee.
Dee Dee?
Yeah, like Deedee.
Your father lives close by in a neighboring town, correct?
Yes.
Don't tell me the town, but it's relatively close.
Look at her. Do you see her eyes?
20 minutes, yes.
Okay.
She's looking to Brennan.
She's
looking to Brennan.
Yes.
To object. Look at her. There she is again.
There are, I'm not going to go through all of them right now because the family tree is getting large, but there are children,
unbelievable,
cousins, second cousins, nephews, aunts, uncles. There's a combination of familial relations within that set of folks that I just talked about, Chris and Brian and Nicole and you and Matt and the folks that we've just talked about.
Yes.
That family, that large family, celebrates holidays together, I'm guessing.
Sorry, guys.
We don't typically, celebrate with Kevin and Chris, but my family does, yes.
Along with Brian, Albert, and Nicole.
Yes, of course.
Birthdays are celebrated within that family.
Yes.
Go on vacations together, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Gatherings like the one on the 28th.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Special events.
Yes.
Spend weekends together.
Yes.
You mentioned a lot of sporting events. There's a lot of sporting events that y'all go to together.
Yes.
So it is very, very easy to see that it's an extremely close-knit family.
Yes.
And naturally, you're very protective of your family, as anybody would be.
Yes, I love my family.
You also said that you knew, and your words, liked Karen Reed, my client, on the 28th of January 2022, correct?
Yes.
But she very much is not family, correct?
Correct.
She certainly was not as important to you as your actual family, the Alberts, the McCabe's, the folks associated with them. Is that right?
Yes.
On January 28th, 2022,
watch your eyes.
Members of the Albert family and the McCabe family all went to a bar together, had drinks together that night. Waterfall, we've heard a little bit about that, correct?
Correct.
Ultimately, you went back to your sister's house for the after party that we've heard so much about. That was at Brian Albert's house, is that right?
Yes.
You've been interviewed, I think you indicated multiple times. You didn't even give a number of how many times you've been interviewed by police in this case. Is that right?
Yes.
Your family is connected to people at Boston Police Department. We just talked about that. Brian Albert, is that right?
Well, was a Boston police officer.
Right. So when I say connected, there's some familial or family or friendly connection to that police agency, Boston Police Department. It'd be Brian Albert in this case, correct?
The objection sustained.
There's also a connection to the Massachusetts State Police through your family. Is that right?
Objection. So define connection.
Julie and Chris Albert are very, very close to you. Right.
I'm close with Julie and Chris, yes.
You're aware that Michael Proctor's sister, Courtney, is basically best friends with Julie.
No, I'm not aware of that. She's best friends with Julie's sister, Jillian.
Okay, so Courtney's best friends with Jillian, who's sisters to Julie, who's married to Chris, who's an Albert, who's the little brother of Brian Albert.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. And they only spoke 60 times in 4 months or something. So they're not best friends. But I would say, I mean, if you're talking to somebody 60 times over the course of a few months, come on, that's pretty close. I don't know how much you got to be on the phone, but Yes, Gina Parrish. Yeah, 4096. Of course. Not only was Karen in shock that morning, but she was literally, they were holding her at one point against her will because she was on suicide watch. She was completely hysterical. Going back to what, midnight? Think about all the calls that 52 calls to John. So she's hysterical the early part of the night. Think about how tapped is not only from the alcohol. So then the alcohol starts to wear off because your actual nervous system, right? Your central nervous system starts to ramp up. And she's so escalated during that part. Then she falls asleep for like an hour and a half, maybe, wakes up, then realizes that he has not come home and now is in a complete panic. Absolutely realizes something very serious must have happened because he would never not come home. She doesn't know what happened. She doesn't really remember, right? She's kind of foggy about what the hell even happened. And so she just, without thinking, starts making calls to people that she thinks John trusts and might have information. I mean, it's the worst state this woman has ever been in, probably in her entire life. But that's the moment that the Okeefe family has elected to evaluate the legitimacy of Karen. And then immediately following that, within 2 days, they have an order of protection against her. She can't even go near them, right? I mean, they're blaming her during that time for deleting videos, which is just, again, like, this is what I was saying a little bit before, like not the smartest group, maybe, right? Not the sharpest of tools in the shed or whatever you want to say. Because nobody's thinking, right? I mean, the one person to me, and they don't even try to deny this, like Jennifer McCabe doesn't even try to deny this. The one person in total hysteria about John is Karen. She's the only one that we see in total hysteria. We even see it with our own eyes. But because she sat in a courtroom, however many years later, not looking hysterical anymore, people just assumed nefarious intent. I mean, the whole thing is so absurd, Gina, for many reasons. So you're 100% correct. It's totally absurd. Twigs the Gemini. Oh my God, congratulations. Member for 4 months, Twigs. That's crazy. Time is flying by. Sam, I need to talk to you about the evidence log. Yes, absolutely. Let's talk. I'm down. Let's go. There's a lot to talk about there, right? And thank God Melanie Little really opened that can of
Canton
worms.
Police Department.
Jesus.
There's also some connections there as well. Kevin Albert being the most obvious of them. Objection.
I'm going to water. Do you have a connection with the Canton Police Department? Not with the department, but with Kevin Albert.
Right. He's a member of the department.
Yes, but my relationship's with him.
Understood. You've indicated that you've been interviewed by law enforcement agents associated with Massachusetts State, with Canton Police Department. That'd be Officer Lank.
Yes. Can I stop you for a second and see counsel at sidebar?
Sure.
Oh, we're going to get the sidebars. Oh
Jackson,
my God.
go right ahead.
Thank you.
No, seriously, I'm planning on when those sidebars transcripts come out, hopefully they're not all blacked out. Assuming they're not all blacked out, like my plan is just start at the beginning and like follow along. There's going to be so much amazing. I can't wait for the sidebars.
When last we left off, we were talking a little bit about some of the familial connections that your family has with certain law enforcement agencies. We talked about Boston Police Department, obviously, Brian Albert. We talked a little bit about Massachusetts State Police and knowing friends of friends with regard to Chris and Julie, correct? Yeah.
Knowing friends of Chris and Julie?
Friends of Chris and Julie.
Is that your relationship? With who?
I'd ask you that. I'll ask you a different question.
Okay.
A little bit vague. Courtney Proctor is friends with Julie's sister.
Yes.
And obviously Courtney also knows Julie and Chris, correct?
Sustained.
And there's also a connection to Canton Police Department through Kevin Albert. Is that right? Exactly.
Can you answer that? Is there a connection? Do you have a connection with the Canton Police Department through Kevin Albert?
Can you just say that?
Not with the police department, but Kevin Albert is Brian Albert's brother.
Right. And Kevin works for whom?
The Canton Police.
Thank you. So you've been interviewed many times by different law enforcement agencies, be they Massachusetts State Police, Canton Police, or otherwise, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Those interviews have not.
Okay, wait. So you'll notice there was like a moment where she made a conscious decision to shift how she was holding her body and the look on her face. Like she started to get frustrated, realized that she was getting frustrated, and then all of a sudden like repositioned herself. It's like creepy to watch.
Not just been over the period of weeks, it's been over the period of weeks and months and even years since this occurred, correct?
Yes.
You were contacted by another law enforcement agency that was not Massachusetts State Police and not Canton Police Department at one point in April of 2023. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I want to talk for a second about that series of interview or that interview.
Oh, look here.
You were
Looking at Brennan.
contacted at your residence by these members of this law enforcement agency, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Look at him again.
Later that same day, you did sit down with those same law enforcement officers for a formal interview.
On that
same day that you were contacted by them, they also went into your home and actually interviewed you, correct?
Yes, it was brief.
All right. Those law enforcement officers identified themselves as being associated with an agency that is not Massachusetts State Police. You understood that?
Yes.
And you understood that they were not involved with Canton Police Department either, correct?
Correct.
Completely separate agency, is that right?
Yes.
During the course of that interview, those officers informed you very specifically, Ms. McCabe, that it is a crime to lie to them, even during an interview, correct?
Yes.
I mean, if this didn't like tip the hand to the jury, right? Like, who else would say that to you? But if they're not a federal agent, right? What other law enforcement agency would, come to you and say, it's a crime if you lie to us, even in this interview, like, so it had to have been the feds. The jury must have known, right? I'm assuming, I don't know.
Those law enforcement officers informed you that they were investigating certain circumstances attendant to John Okeefe's death, correct?
They were very vague on what they were.
Understood.
I don't know what they were investigating.
One-sided shoulder
shrug.
shrug.
It was having something to do with your involvement at 34 Fairview on January 28th, 29th, 2022. As a witness or otherwise?
Look at her face.
Changes to certain terminologies.
Look at her face. Do you guys see this? I never really noticed like the very nuanced little facial shifts that she's making this way before, but she's like, she doesn't know what to say. Like, she didn't know what to say. And at that moment, she wasn't even looking to Brennan yet to object. She was just like, what am I going to say? But it was really an interesting moment. Let me just rewind that a couple seconds so you guys can see that. If you haven't seen it, come to the screen. It's a weird, if you're not at the screen, come to the screen. It's a weird.
But you did understand that it was having something to do with your involvement at 34 Fairview on January 28th, 29th, 2022. As a witness or otherwise?
You see, there's no intent to answer. She's
to-
just staring at him. And there was no, like, she didn't go to respond. She just sat there, stared back at him. And she did not, as she has done in the moments prior, look to Brennan to object. He just did.
Certain terminologies.
Sure. Let me see if I can rephrase that, Ms. McCabe. You were aware of the subject matter of their interview, right? They weren't interviewing about a car you bought last year, correct?
Correct.
They were interviewing you basically about what you're testifying to here, correct?
When I first spoke with them, the conversation was pretty vague.
But the subject matter, vague or specific, was about this subject matter.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. They first contacted you telephonically. Called you on the phone. Is that right?
Actually, they walked up to my car.
They walked up to your car.
Yes.
Okay, that was the very first introduction, correct?
Yes.
At that point, they had not identified themselves, correct?
They didn't know.
All right, and at that point, you told them that you were not Jennifer McCabe. They asked you who you were. You said,
Mhm.
I thought they were like selling something. So I was like, oh, no, I'm not the homeowner.
Okay, so remember, anytime she does that, like retelling of a conversation that she's had prior, whether it's talking to herself or somebody else, right? Oh no, Nicole Albert does a lot of that. That is deceit, straight deceit. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. However, after you said, I'm not Jennifer McCabe, you walked into the house, they then called you on the phone.
Yes.
They were still sitting outside your house.
I don't know where they were, but they did call me.
Imagine how scary that must have been, right? That had to be scary.
They're close by.
I'm not aware.
Well, the call came almost immediately after you walked back in the house, correct?
I'm not sure how much time had passed.
Give me an idea. It wasn't an hour. It was
No, it was
One
soon
time
after. I'm just not sure. I can't tell you where they were located. I'm sorry.
okay. They told you that they
So that's not true, right? That's not true. What she just said, I can't tell you where they were located. So that's not true. Maybe they were just in her driveway, because what she's saying there is, I can't tell you where they were located, not I don't know where they were located, right? So that's something different. That means I do know where they were, but I'm not able to communicate to you the truth about where they were.
at that point, they identified themselves as being law enforcement agents, correct?
When they called me, yes.
And they told you at that time.
And that's also dishonest. So remember, when she answers at the end, that's dishonest. So what she just said, when they called me yes, implies they had identified themselves from the beginning. She tells us she wasn't sure what they were. I thought they were selling, whatever, because that's a normal thing that people do these days, is sell things to you door to door. But she's trying to tell us that's the reason why she's trying to give us an excuse for why she pretended to be somebody else, is basically.
They were not with Canton Police. You knew at least they were not with Canton Police Department. They were not with troopers with Massachusetts State Police, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And they told you that they would like to have an interview with you. They'd like to have a sit-down talk with you, correct?
Yes.
You told them that you would be willing to submit to an interview, but you needed about 10 minutes to get ready, correct?
Yes.
You ultimately did allow them into your home, and you did sit down for a formal interview with them, correct?
Yes, brief, but yes.
And it was during that formal interview inside the home that it was explained to you that it would be a crime for you to lie to them on any material issue, correct?
Yes.
During the course of your interview, your husband, Matt McCabe, came home. Is that right?
Yes.
As these law enforcement agents continue to question you, as law enforcement officers continue to question you at some point, you inform them that you did not feel comfortable with any further questioning and you suspended the interview, correct?
Yes.
Before leaving, however, those same law enforcement officers asked you if you had contacted anyone in those 10 minutes when you indicated, I need 10 minutes to get ready, between the time they called you and the time that they showed up and came inside your house, correct?
Yes.
You told them that you had contacted your husband, Matt McCabe.
Yes.
Which is why he came home, right?
Yes.
And you told them that you had called Carrie Roberts before they interviewed you, correct? At that moment.
I'm not 100% sure, but if you have it, I'll.
Wow. You see what's happening here?
Seems like something I would do, but if you.
Okay, so this is like a really stressful moment for her. She's totally panicking. This is like a bug out for Jen at this moment. So the other thing that I believe changed pretty markedly from trial 1 to trial 2 with Jennifer is that she realized or was taught or learned that if she says, I don't remember and none of these things that you're showing me are refreshing my memory, then she can avoid a topic altogether. That if she just insists that I don't remember, somehow she realized that the way around a question completely is to just deny she has any memory of the event at all, because apparently in a trial situation, you know, you can say you don't remember, they can show you something. If it doesn't refresh your memory, then they just are limited in what they're allowed to ask you. And she realizes that and pulls that card a number of times throughout this cross-examination. And she tries to do it here in a way, right? This is a very stressful topic. She's literally kind of gone into panic. And this is early on in her testimony. So later, towards the end, or like right before lunch breaks and stuff, she's tired and you can really see that she's unraveling a little bit. This is not that, because this is only in the very beginning, right? We're only like 20 minutes in. I have the actual transcript in front of me, and you know, we're maybe 25 minutes or so in. So this is right at the beginning. Steph, oh, honey, I can't believe our journey began literally a day after the verdict. That's crazy. I can't even believe we've been doing this for that long. That's so crazy. Yes, absolutely. I never in a million lifetimes. If you had told me a year ago on Thanksgiving, this is what we'd be doing, I would never believe you. I'd be like, yeah, right. Completely just think you are nuts. So thank you so much for being here with me. Absolutely. Yeah, as long as you guys are here, I'll be here. That's, you know, that's the story. That's the deal. And welcome to new members. Welcome to new members. You guys are awesome. Okay, here we go. We're going back to
You have it. Could show me.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
Very difficult topic for her. Very difficult topic.
First, I'm going to ask you, Ms. McCabe, if you recognize that as being a report of that interview. Is general. Yes or no?
It appears to be, yes.
May I approach the witness stand and stand by the witness stand for a couple of questions?
Yes.
Now watch her eyes when she looks for Dr. Brennan to help. It's like, it's crazy. I know. I know, Lisa Shaw. I know.
I'm sorry, page 4, top 4. Okay. You could review those 2 paragraphs, read them to yourself, and then look up and let me know when you're finished.
I know.
May I approach on it?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McCabe.
Yes.
In reviewing those paragraphs, refresh your recollection as to whether or not, as to what you told those agents initially. I'm sorry, what you told those officers initially from that other law enforcement agency, that about who you contacted in that 10-minute interval.
Yes, I told them.
And you told them that you had contacted your husband, Matt McCabe.
Yes.
And Carrie Roberts.
Correct.
I want to stick with that for just a quick second. One of the first calls you made after being contacted by this other law enforcement, these other.
Now, so interesting, just side note, this interview happened before the first trial. So, but it didn't get brought into the first trial. My guess is she did not anticipate this Q&A. For whatever reason, she just thought like they weren't going to bring this up, because the look on her face right now tells me that she was not prepared for this line of questioning. That's what the look says to me. I could be wrong, but it looks to me like she did not think this was going to come up.
Law enforcement officers from a different agency. One of the first calls you made was to Carrie Roberts. Is that right?
She was the first one.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay, that was a good cover there. So she bought some time by reframing the question like she didn't hear it properly. She did hear that question properly, because she responded with a head nod right when he asked it. She then changed the question and responded to that. So that's interesting.
The first 2 calls you made, your husband.
Right.
Come home. There's law enforcement outside my door. I'm guessing is what you said, correct?
I don't remember my exact words now, but I did ask him to come home.
He does remember.
And
Yes.
Carrie Roberts.
Okay. Yes.
You wanted to let Ms. Roberts know that you had been contacted by certain officers from a different agency, correct?
I was curious if they had already been to her.
That was my next
Oh,
question.
yeah.
You also wanted to find out had these law enforcement officers from this different agency contacted her, correct?
Yes, because typically if you enter our
yes or no.
town, she's.
Miss McCabe, yes or no?
Oh, sorry, I was just trying to
That's
explain.
okay.
I'm sorry.
Is that why you contacted her, to find out if in fact they had contacted her before you? Yes or no?
Yes.
And you also wanted to find out what she told them, if she had been contacted by them, correct? That was your motive in calling her.
No.
So you just wanted to find out, had she been contacted?
Yes.
But if she had said yes, you weren't going to say, and what the hell did they say? What did they ask you?
Well, I can't say what I would have answered, what I would have asked her, but I know I was calling to see if they had been there. Yes,
That was
correct.
your intent.
I called to ask her if they had been there. Yes.
So that was your intent. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
The first part of that, though, there was all kinds of indicators. So when Jackson was asking about whether or not she was also calling to find out what they were there for, she tries to say that's not what she was calling for, but it was also part of why she was calling, right? So why are they there? What did they tell you, right? And that's important. Like, put a pin in that. Like, what did they tell you? Because I have a theory about why Jen McCabe prioritized developing a relationship with Carrie Roberts. I don't think it was her pushing. I think it was probably Brian Albert's insistence from the very beginning, because it gives them a lot, right? Not only does it give them credibility with the Okeefe family and with law enforcement, because Carrie Roberts is credible, but also because it gives them an inside direct line to the family. And if the feds were to show up and interview the Okeefe family or Carrie Roberts, they're going to get immediately tipped off to it, right? And then they'll know whether or not they have a very big problem very quickly, because that's the only kind of the only kink in the chain, so to speak, for this group, as far as law enforcement is concerned, are the feds. Local law enforcement is covered all around them. Their bases are covered. They've got the Boston PD covered, they've got the local police department covered, and they've got the state police covered. So these guys are covered unless the feds are on them. That's the only way that they're ever going to get in trouble, at least as it stands now, with the current configuration of the district attorney's office.
Your motive in calling Carrie Roberts at that moment before your interview was to ensure that your story would line up with her story, Ms. McCabe. Isn't that right?
No, that is not.
You wanted to find out if she had talked to these particular law enforcement officers and what she had told them, so that your story could somehow align, or it could inform how you responded to questions that they asked you. Isn't that true?
That's not true. We both know what happened. We don't have to have a story.
Oh, wow.
There is no story. There's what happened, and that's it.
Wow. Everybody see that? Did we see the perform face? Because that's it. I mean, if you're not sure what it looks like when she's performing, the face you just saw, like, that's one of the, when I shift into the narrative, literally when we shift into different, like, if you rehearse your lines for play, right? You literally shift into a different mode when you recall that narrative, and you literally are actively in the moment bringing it up, right? And you can see that when she's going into like playing the tape mode, telling the story, the rehearsed statements, it's like a different Jen comes up and starts talking. It's the weirdest thing. And she's got like three distinct modes that you can see. And it's particularly noticeable when she's lying. When she's honest, you know, it looks like anybody else who's being honest. It's just normal. But then all of a sudden we get into these like weird facial gestures and she's like over trying and smiling. It's like, what is going on?
So if that's true, Ms. McCabe, you have no reason to call Carrie and ask her if she'd been contacted by these law enforcement agents, because it's just the truth, right?
We're going through this whole experience together. We call each other about everything. That's nothing more than that. I'm sorry.
Let her finish her answer. Go ahead, Ms. McCabe. You can finish that.
There's nothing more than me calling and saying, hey, did they come to your house? That's what we did when the media showed up, when Miss Reed's private investigator showed up. We just give each other the heads up, hey, somebody's coming. Because we're just like normal moms. We're not used to this.
Right. So there it is. You see it? You see it? You see that this is the rehearsed. This was rehearsed at some point. So while Jackson is talking to her, she's trying to remember, like, oh shit, he's bringing this up. What was I supposed to say? What was the rehearsed thing that we were talking about? If this came up, like, what would I say? And then she remembers it. She's like pretty decent with rehearsed testimony. I mean, she's also the worst liar the world has ever seen, because this is the face she makes. Watch this last little thing, because this is exactly what I'm talking about. There's just nothing genuine in this. It's total performance.
Experience together.
The truth, right?
We're going through this whole experience together. We call each other about everything. That's nothing more than that. I'm sorry.
Let her finish her answer. Go ahead, Ms. McCabe. You can finish that.
There's nothing more than me calling and saying, hey, did they come to your house? That's what we did when the media showed up, when Miss Reed's private.
You literally can see the shift. As soon as she starts saying, that's what we did when, that's where like the rehearsed moments. It's craziness.
Did they come to your house? That's what we did.
Finish that.
There's nothing more than me calling and saying, hey, did they come to your house? That's what we did when the media showed up, when Miss Reed's private investigator showed up. We just give each other the heads up, hey, somebody's coming. Because we're just like normal moms. We're not used to this.
Shoulder, did you see the shoulder shrug in there? So for those of you that are not as familiar with why I point out the one-sided shoulder shrug, that's because when you have one side of the body doing something completely different than the other side, that means that it's incongruent. Part of you is going in one direction and part of you is going in another direction, right? You're not aligned with what you're saying. That's a problem. And it's one of those like tells, like one of those hard and fast tells. And who does that? So we talked a lot about this, maybe not last time, but 2 times ago, a week ago. We talked about the credibility builders, right? I don't think I see it here today, but the other 2 times that we see her, maybe even 3, she's got the big cross, like it's out, it's pronounced. Like I have this necklace, she has this big cross. And if you think that wasn't intentional, you're crazy. That's a credibility builder. It's something that she's doing to try to say, look, I'm just a normal mom. I'm just like you. Like, I'm just this good Christian woman. And, this is who I am. And I'm a mom and I have kids, the whole thing. I'm the soccer mom, like quintessential soccer mom, right? It's crazy. Exactly. Heads up. Here comes the FBI. And I think for Jennifer, the reason why Peg O'Keefe is on that list and Carrie is because she wants to know, like, am I in trouble, right? So, for example, if I call the O'Keefe household and they don't answer, or they do answer and they're like, hey, Jen, then everything is fine, right? Because to me, the hardest thing for me when I start thinking about Jennifer McCabe and I really start thinking about her behavior, not only like the way she's befriended Carrie and how horrific that is, but the fact that she is like this with the O'Keefe family and with John's kids, to me, that's a different level of deception. And I understand, like, okay, you can reason in your own mind. Maybe you rationalize that, like, I have to do this for my family or something. But that part to me, that's very, it's, but I've said it to all of you before. These guys are doing everything in their power to try to pretend like they are innocent. They are trying. They're trying. They're just like, if we just keep, I think Aiden pointed this out the other night when he was going over like the GoFundMe accounts for the McAlberts. It's like, if we just keep with this story, if we keep saying it and keep saying it and keep saying it and witness intimidation, maybe eventually everybody will buy it. They're just going to keep with it and keep with it and keep with it. It's crazy. It's just crazy. I mean, it's just, how else do you say it? It's crazy and it's eerie and it's despicable. It's god awful. It's just horrible. Something that's been nagging me is, based on your body language read on Brian Albert, do you think John Okeefe wasn't the first time? It's a great question. I don't know. I want to say his body language, I think that Brian Albert is not quite as tough as he wants you to think he is. He's sensitive. That's why a couple of videos ago, or maybe the last video I did, I mentioned that Chris is, we see, I happen to just catch this. We see in that Matt Gutman interview after the verdict, he says, Nicole, you've been really quiet, right? And then Nicole says something like, well, I'm just really sad about what's happened to all of us. And Chris takes his hand and he puts it on like her leg to support her. Brian Albert, her husband, sees it out of the very corner of his eye. He's trying to pretend like he's looking forward, but you can also kind of tell he sees it. And then he moves his hand to the other leg to support her, like as though he didn't know that, like he wasn't just being shown up by his brother. So my point is, in that moment, I was pointing out that I started to say that Chris is more emotional than Brian Albert, from what I can tell. That's not true. Brian Albert is very nervous throughout that testimony. It's not the testimony of like a strong, confident, a guy who's really like comfortable lying. It's not at all like that. You would think it would be, because he even tells us that he's testified like 100 times before. So you would think this is a man who's comfortable, he shouldn't be so nervous. But what it tells me is he doesn't like the lying, and that everything is riding on it, right? Because there's no logical reason to be nervous if you're Brian Albert, right? I mean, no logical reason except that you're not comfortable in the situation that you're in, you found yourself in. And that tells me that it's not business as usual in any way. Now, we know that he's gotten into drunk fights before, 100%, right? And he was a Marine in Desert Storm. I mean, are we compartmentalizing that? I don't know. I don't know how much active combat he saw or anything like that. Does that count? You know what I'm saying? I just don't know that he's ever been in a situation like this, because to me, he would be a lot more comfortable in the position. He's not. His testimony is one of the ones with the most indicators, if you know what to look for. Like, to me, Jen, Brian Albert, and Brian Higgins, let's not count Colin, because it's, Colin, Tristan, I mean, they're just like, to me, kind of side cast in terms of their testimony, right? Colin isn't on the stand for long, Tristan's the worst testimony that anyone has ever seen. It's definitely the most incriminating, but he doesn't have that much to hide, right? So all that does is tell us that there's something we should be looking for, that there is something that he is hiding, right? But he wasn't one of the big players. So, but Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, and Jen, clearly, the three of them, I think, are where we get the most information about what happened. Really. Because if you're paying very careful attention, you go through it pound for pound for pound, we learn a lot about what happened. What happened honestly, what didn't happen, right? Like, I know, for example, that obviously the Jeep, we all know, was not, in front of the mailbox, that Karen's car was originally in front of the driveway and then in front of the mailbox, right? That's probably where she was. That Jen was seated at the table out looking out the window, not out the front of the house, the storm door. When she's asked about the storm door, which is coming up, watch carefully. She can't even tell you what kind of door it was. Jackson is like, so wait, just so I'm clear, is it like the wooden door and then like the other door that you open? She's like, yeah, that sounds about right. It's like, wait, you don't even know what the door looks like that you keep going up and, looking? It's ridiculous, right? So I think we learn the most from those three. And we learn the most from those three because they're terrible at lying, bad lying. And that doesn't make any sense. If Brian Albert is used to being in this position because he's done it before, I think we would see a different comfort level with deception. That's my feeling. Just based on, it doesn't seem to me, the way my sense on this is like, he's the older brother. He's the one that like got away with it. Like he just never put himself in a position like this. Maybe because of his relationships, maybe because he got out of jail free cards, whatever, had a bunch that were stacked up because of his relationships. I don't know that he's ever been in the hot seat the way he is right now. And no matter what they're doing, you also have to remember, this kind of guy, like they don't like having no power or being powerless. And I think one of the things that Aiden did early on in his role in all of this is he really unraveled these people because they were just totally not in control of him and they didn't know what was coming. They tried to shut him down so quickly. To me, the amount of effort and energy that they put into trying to shut him down says like everything you need to know about these people. Because if you're being honest, who cares? Think about it. If these guys are telling the truth, they had no idea what happened to John. They have no idea. None of them know anything about what happened to John. Okay? Who cares what else happens? We don't know what happened. So, you know what? It wasn't us. If Aiden wants to run around and scream and yell and say mean things about us, who cares? It wasn't us. Right? I mean, yeah, you could sue him for defamation, but like the amount of effort that these people are putting in to shutting him down, that they literally advocated at the DA's office to get him arrested, to trump up charges, right? Like those charges were not legitimate. They relabeled all of his show titles to these absurd titles that were just not even anything close to what the intent was, right? To make him look bad. Like they're totally not legit. It's just the amount of effort these people went to and put in really says it all to me about like their involvement. Like innocent people just don't work this hard to try to prove their innocence. They just don't. Like, because why? Why do I do that? I have no reason to do that. I didn't do anything. There's nothing to hide. Do you know what I'm saying? Like even the behavior of like the ancillary team, like the people around them and their behavior. It's like all these people are just so invested. They're working so hard to try to shut down the narrative. And it's like, if there's nothing to hide, there's no reason to care this much. That's the thing. Like it's so, they're just, I've never seen anything like this. I mean, I honestly, and I was saying this to Emily C earlier today, like I've never seen anything like this. Like this is insane. This is just insane. And I think they were counting on kind of like the Julie Grant model of looking at this. Like they were kind of counting on all of us, oh, girlfriend was drunk and simplest explanation, Occam's razor. She probably did it. And that was the end of the story. I actually think looking at the evidence that they were the original plan was not to make it look like a plow hit him, to make it look like he slipped and fell because of the way like the glass, to make it look like he was like walking up or something and slipped and fell. That's what it looks like to me. and that they were just going to claim like he never came in the house and they don't know what happened to him. It didn't become about Karen Reed until she sort of, inserted herself in the middle of it, obviously with no intention of doing that.
Helpful in making sure that the stories she tells are consistent with the stories you tell to different law enforcement agencies, correct?
No, we are not telling stories.
So let her finish. You said no what?
I said, no, we're not telling stories. We don't have to compare.
And if in fact, what you're telling is just the truth, there'd be no reason for you to inquire about who's contacting her when.
There's no inquiring. It's like when when the ice cream truck was at the street next door and I'm saying, did the ice cream truck come? It's really that simple.
So you asked a question, an argumentative question, and she responded in kind. Next question.
Thank you. You also testified in your direct examination, staying with Ms. Roberts for just a second, about a timeline that you and Ms. Roberts put together, correct?
Yes.
That's another example of the two of you talking about your own perceptions and comparing and contrasting those perceptions and putting it down on paper, correct?
No,
Yes or no?
it's a no. Can I explain or no?
I'm sure Mr. Brennan will have follow-up questions.
Mm-hmm.
After you gave that answer to those law enforcement officers at that separate law enforcement agency,
It's like faded for a second there.
they asked you, was there anyone else that you contacted in that 10-minute period before we got a chance to talk to you?
Mm-hmm.
And your answer was no, correct?
Correct.
And that was a lie, correct?
It wasn't a lie. No.
Was it true? Was it the truth or a lie?
It wasn't a lie.
Okay, so it was the truth. You had not spoken to any other person between the time they contacted you telephonically and you said, I need 10 minutes, and then they came in the door. During that part of time, you didn't talk to anybody else or contact anybody else other than Matt McCabe, Carrie Roberts. Now you're testifying that was a true statement.
I can't answer that yes or no.
It's pretty binary.
Yeah.
Had you talked, well, let me ask you this. In point of fact, you did talk to other people. You contacted others in addition to Matt McCabe and Carrie Roberts, right? Yes or no?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So when you said no to the answer, did you contact anyone other than Matt and Carrie? That would be, by definition, Ms. McCabe, a lie. Correct?
No.
It's not a lie? Is there some shade of lie that I'm not aware of?
It's the way you're asking the question. If I could explain,
let me ask
it will make more sense to you.
The agents asked you, I'm going to go over this one more time, then I'm going to move on. The agents asked you, in fact, did you contact anyone between the time we called you and set up the interview and the 10 minutes before we walked in the door? They asked you that question, correct?
The objection is sustained. Watch the choice of language.
I'm sorry. I meant the law enforcement agency. That law enforcement agency, the members of that law enforcement agency contacted you.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. They asked you who you had contacted between the time they first telephoned you and walked in the door saying that's it. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Data point number one. Data point number two, you told them Matt and Carrie, correct?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
You had actually contacted, they then asked you, did you contact anyone else other than Matt and Carrie, correct?
Correct.
And you said no. Is that correct?
At that moment, I said no. Yes.
Correct. Or any moment.
No, at that moment, because they had just come in my house.
Only one person can talk at a time.
Mm-hmm.
You said the word no.
She was finishing her answer. Finishing her.
I had said no because I'm going to be I was in a situation where there are two officers from a different agent had come in, were asking me questions, or they had said, can I come in and ask you questions? At first, I thought they were selling something. Then they identified themselves. I just dropped my kids off at school. Going to be completely honest. I hadn't brushed my teeth. So I kind of made some phone
Objection, Your Honor.
calls.
This is non-responsive.
So next question.
Thank you.
What
Mr. McCabe, after-
was that? I mean, what the hell was that? Huh? Huh? What was that? What was that? Yes, that's right. That's right. Because that's the moment, right, where she says it, the brushing their teeth. Like was just an unraveling there. She clearly was told by somebody not to say, I'm going to be honest or to be 100% honest, because every time she goes to say it, she stops herself and then tries to find a different way to say something, right? So there's, again, another example of where she's self-censoring as she's going. And because she's doing that, we're seeing all this stumbling. We're also seeing repeating pronouns because of that stumbling. It's like she doesn't want to pause because she thinks that makes her sound incriminating. She makes what she's saying sound like she's being deceptive. So then she just keeps like pushing. This was a complete disaster, what just happened. And it only kind of gets worse from here, right? It doesn't really get better for Jen. I mean, if you think about it, you really stop. And now that we're removed from the anxiety of whether Karen is going to jail, or prison, during the actual trial, it is very tough to be just watching this and not reacting to the anxiety about what the outcome is going to be. Now, because we know what the outcome is, and there isn't that kind of emotion while we're watching it, it's just like, what is going on here? How does anybody, and I've said this before, and I know I've asked it a million times, I never get an answer that makes any sense, but I just want to know, like, how does anybody watch this and not think something is wrong with this? Like, this is just not the way honest human beings testify in a court of law if they have nothing to hide. Like, so what is the working theory if you believe Karen Read is guilty? Why is Jennifer McCabe having a nervous breakdown in front of us? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's wild. It's just wild. Yeah, it's like, but just disaster. That's what it is. It's like just complete disaster. Complete disaster is what we're
You
seeing.
said no, that you hadn't contacted anybody else. Those two law enforcement officers from that separate agency who had told you it was a crime to lie to them, they left, correct?
Yes.
Subsequent to that, Mr. McCabe, your husband, objection.
Sustained.
They left you their card so you could call them if need be, correct?
Yes, they did.
And you, in fact, did call them back, correct?
Yes, I did.
Without telling me the content of the conversation you had, did you have a conversation with Mr. McCabe? Objection.
Sustained.
Did you call them back and say, I'm calling you back because my husband told me that I lied to you and I better clear that lie up?
So sustained. Jurors, remember I told you before that only answers to questions are evidence? Be mindful of that. Next, yes.
Sidebar, another one. Put a pin in.
May I?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. You ultimately called these officers back, correct?
Yes.
And you explained to them that you had been untruthful with them, correct?
I explained that I had forgotten to mention a couple of people that I had reached out to.
You had forgotten.
I forgot.
Is that-
I completely forgot. Just think about the absurdity of that. And before I forget, I also want to say thank you to the trial channel because sometimes forget to say it. I want to make sure I say it. The trial channel, the greatest thing that ever happened to the world. I seriously, and I mean this like truly, like from the bottom of my heart and soul. It would add like years onto my life to not have the trial channel because I can just go right to where I need to go in these testimonies. There's a few. I've gotten so kind of spoiled by it because there's a couple of times where I've had to go looking for something without the trial channel and it's like, oh no, it just takes forever to find. So huge shout out to the trial channel. Thank you for everything you do. It's just, I mean, if you're creating content with any of these folks, any of these trials, it's like the trial channel is like, it's like gold, worth its weight in gold without even, no question. So thank you for everything.
Your testimony?
Yes.
You had forgotten. You remembered Matt and you remembered Carrie, but you had forgotten the others that you had just contacted maybe 30 minutes before.
Yes.
There were.
Of course, she forgot.
5 people that you contacted.
I contacted Matt.
Let's go through them.
Yeah.
Yes, no. You know them?
I know 4 off the top of my head.
Okay, let's go through them.
Okay.
You contacted your husband, correct?
Yes.
You contacted Carrie Roberts, correct?
Yes.
You contacted Peggy O'Keefe, correct?
Yes.
Then, Ms. McCabe, you contacted the district attorney's office, correct?
My witness advocate.
The district attorney's office.
My witness advocate who works for the district attorney's office.
Thank you, Ms. McCabe.
Yes.
And you also left out that you contacted Brian Albert himself, correct?
Yes, my brother-in-law.
For some reason, your brother-in-law, who's the 30-year Boston police detective, correct?
Yes.
And on whose lawn John Okeefe was found dead or dying. Objection.
I'll allow that.
Correct?
Yes.
For some reason, you did not want these officers to know that you had communicated specifically with Brian Albert, the homeowner, just before you talked to them, correct?
No, incorrect.
There was some reason that was important enough for you to lie about that, even though you had been admonished that it's a crime to lie about that to those officers, correct?
Incorrect. I didn't lie to them. I had forgotten who I had called.
And all of a sudden you had an epiphany right after they walked out the door?
Yes. Matt said, who have you spoken to?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it. It's out and you're not to go any further. Mr. Judge.
Ms. McCabe, I want to draw your attention to January 28th. You had gone out drinking with your family at the Waterfall Bar and Grill, correct?
I went with my husband and met my sister, yes.
And met the other family, correct? The other family members, meaning
My niece.
Matt McCabe, Nicole, Chris, Julie, Caitlin, correct?
Yes.
And I think you mentioned Tristan was there as well.
Yes.
You were later joined by Nick and Karina Kolakithis, is that right?
Yes.
Ultimately, Brian Higgins showed up?
Yes.
And Brian Albert showed up?
Yes.
You previously indicated that Caitlin's boyfriend, Tristan.
What do you guys make of like the periodic eye shutting? Do we think that's indicative of drugs? Do we think that she's, got something go? I mean, what is that? I've said this before. I mean, maybe she's on some type of low dose of benzodiazepine, but you wouldn't want to be so Xanaxed out because you won't have access to all those rehearsed statements if you should like screw up the dose even at all, right? So, and you'd have to be pretty used to it by the time you got to the trial in order to do that without risking really screwing everything up, right? I mean, this could have been just like a total and complete mess if you make the mistake of taking more benzodiazepines than you should. So I just don't know. I don't know. I don't see that, not unless she's taking that all the time. Maybe gabapentin, something like that. But it is pretty weird, you guys. Pretty weird that, right? It's pretty weird that she kind of does. Okay, so Twig says I think it's how she organizes her thoughts. So you think when like the eyelids flutter a little and she kind of like zones out, that's like her regrouping. That's kind of what you're suggesting. It's like a reorganizing. Maybe it's not a terrible suggestion. What comes to mind for me is like sometimes some people that have kind of like ADHD and not on meds, if you are like forced to really pay attention, like read a book, sometimes reading puts people to bed. Sometimes when you are really forced to pay attention, it does kind of it takes so much energy out of us that like we will start to be drained and our eyes kind of get sleepy. That's definitely a possibility for sure. Like I said, I can't imagine that she would risk drugs. Yeah, I mean, look, some people can take it, but it affects memory. And so if you're honest, if you've got nothing to hide and you go on, like Paul Okeefe was drinking, and I think he's admitted it since, but he was drinking before his testimony in the last trial. You can tell. I mean, to me, I can tell his eyes are bloodshot red. He definitely slurs a few times. He's a little dysthymic on the stand, like a little bit slower, kind of sad. Like he seems kind of sad and down, which just makes sense because alcohol is a depressant. So that's what it does. If you have to recall rehearsed testimony, that is like the worst thing to do. If you are being honest, then who cares, right? Like, who cares? There's nothing to hide. So there'd be no one way or the other. It's completely irrelevant. But if you have rehearsed stuff, or if there's something that you're trying to omit from your testimony, oh my God, that would be like the worst decision you could make, because I mean, there's so many reasons. The list is long why this would be a bad time to choose to take something that you're not used to. It doesn't make a difference what it is. It could be anything. If you're not accustomed to being on whatever substance you put in your body before you testify in a court of law, bad move, bad choice of time to begin to get used to whatever it is. But this is what I was saying earlier. She would have had to have been completely adjusted to it before making the decision to do it here, right? You're absolutely right. She was so mellowed out from trial 2 versus trial 1. I actually pulled, I did like a side by side. I wanted just to get through some of this before I show it, because otherwise we'll never get through any of her testimony. But maybe what I'll do for the next time we go through her testimony is I have 2 things I want to do for our next time that we do this. I want to show you guys a side-by-side of her during trial 1 and trial 2, so you can kind of really see the differences and the differences in her responses. But I also want to show you some of what Carrie says, because when we evaluate Carrie's responses versus Jen's, it's very interesting. And I mentioned this earlier, I'm starting to become more interested in some of what Carrie has said, because And I think, Twigs, you pointed this out. Look, maybe there are reasons that she feels are very justified for being deceptive. To me, you better have a good reason, because this could get you into big trouble. Like if you're going to lie during a murder trial, that could get you in big trouble. Like that's not something that you really want, like on your record. You don't want put your name in Google and the first thing that comes up is like you're lying, in a murder trial. Like that's not a good idea, right? For anyone anywhere who has any, aspirations for a future that's bright. So I get why someone like Carrie might do it to protect her BFF, Jen, but I don't think it's a good look. I think it's a bad decision, without a doubt. I think I missed the first thing right above that. So Kit Gracie, I think she was on benzos daily, and then maybe Ativan to keep her focused. Interesting. Ativan to keep her focused. Is that what you mean to say? Ativan to keep her focused? Because you definitely wouldn't give her that. Adderall to keep her focused, but not Ativan. That's not going to do that. Right? I don't know. I don't know. It's a really interesting question. Why the sharp and distinct shift in absolute character from one to the other? The most obvious and likely answer is drugs. I mean, whether it's medication or, so I shouldn't say it that way. Whether it is a controlled substance that you can abuse, or a drug that is, antidepressant or something less interesting than like a benzodiazepine, very possible. She's also on medication for her MS. It may very well be that she takes gabapentin, something like Neurontin, for her MS, because that's the kind of thing that does have kind of crossover effects. There are a whole list of others that might both work for MS and lots of other potential mental health perks. So there could be a long list of possible medications. And the truth is, even if she took something like a benzo at night, it could still, the next day, still in her system, particularly if she does it every day. So there's definitely some shift, no question. There's also, by the way, a huge effort to testify differently. I mean, that's why I think Alan Jackson he draws our attention to that right away. He wants her. I mean, look, the jury doesn't know who Jennifer McCabe is. The jury is not going to see Jen McCabe last trial. So there's no value in pointing out the difference, except to kind of keep her on her toes, except for him to say to her, I see you. I see that you seem different and prepared differently than you were the first time. Right. So other than that, I mean, the jury doesn't know anything about her. Right. I mean, at least you would think theoretically.
And left early for whatever reason. He had errands to run or had to get to bed early for some reason. Is that right?
He left before us. Yes.
So he didn't stay through the shank of the evening.
Through the what?
The shank of the evening, through the course of the evening.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And ultimately at the waterfall, John Okeefe and Miss Reed showed up as well.
Yes.
You didn't see any tension at all between John Okeefe and Karen that night, did you?
No, I didn't.
They appeared to be getting along.
Yeah. Yes.
Sort of a normal couple having a nice evening out together.
Yes.
Neither John nor Karen Reed appeared drunk or inebriated, out of sorts.
No, I wouldn't categorize them as drunk or inebriated. But again, I don't know what the definition of drunk is.
Well, that's a fair statement. I'm not asking for their BAC, but they didn't appear to be stumbling around, falling all over themselves and sloppy drunk, correct?
No.
Out of control, nothing like that.
No.
Okay. You did see Brian Higgins and Brian Albert at a high top table sort of together through the course of that evening, correct?
We were all kind of around like a long high top table.
And John Okeefe, and as you look at I'm going to use the perspective of the video that we've seen, that camera angle that we've seen. John Okeefe and Miss Reed were sort of further off in the corner, closer to the bar rather than to the tables, correct? Along with the Colakitases and those, and you, as a matter of fact.
Right.
Yes. At different times, everyone was kind of moving around. I spent the majority of the time that Karen and John were there speaking with Karen.
And that was sort of over toward the bar.
We weren't in the bar. We were at the table. So it was one side of the table and the other. It wasn't like far away.
Right.
Kind of, yeah.
I'm using the bar sort of as a landmark for nothing. I didn't mean you were sidled up to the bar, but just sort of as a landmark. You were closer to the bar than, for instance, in the foreground, which would be the high top tables in the foreground, correct?
We were just on the other. I'm confused about this. We were just on the other side of the table.
Okay. You did see on the opposite side of that high top table, that's where Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were standing, talking and communicating with each other. Is that right?
I believe so. I was talking to Miss Reed. I wasn't really paying attention to them.
Did you ever see those two men get physical with one another that night?
I did not that night. I did not see that.
Have you ever seen
Okay, so that was just obviously just cold, blatant, outright lie. 100%.
full review in all the hours that you've sort of prepped for your testimony? Have you been shown that waterfall video from the time you got there until the time you left?
Not the full video, but I have seen a good portion of it, yes.
Okay, and you've certainly seen the portion
That's
where
also
Brian
not
Albert
true, by
and
the
Brian
way.
Higgins get up from the table and sort of get physical with one another, correct?
I would say more like play fighting, and Nick Kolakidis was a little bit like doing it with them as well.
Okay, so he set her up here, right? Because he never said anything about fighting. He didn't say anything about fighting. He said physical, right? Like, I think the words he uses, they were getting physical. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what he says. And it's really a setup because, of course, she expects this line of questioning and she knows where he's going. And so she expects him to be asking her about fighting. And she doesn't want to admit that, right? So, but again, this is another example of like, why not? Who cares? Like, who, except for maybe you don't like Alan Jackson. Okay, fine. You don't want to give him this, but like, is this really worth battling with Alan Jackson over? So what? A couple of guys in a bar got drunk and were wrestling. If there's no there, then why fight so hard not to admit that they are play fighting in a bar? Who cares? And I think that's the oversight throughout. That's the big oversight throughout all of their testimonies. It's like they work so hard to try to make these just silly arguments that only cause us to be like, oh, that's a really odd thing to argue about. Like, who would fight about that unless you have something to hide? And it's just like these people just can't get out of their own way. They do it all the time.
So the physical part is
So bizarre.
they touch each other. Yes.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
And you described it as play fighting, correct?
I don't, if we could watch the video, it might explain it better than I could.
Oh, so wait, here it is. Hold on. I want to just get the exact words. So he says, okay. And that was sort of over toward the bar. We were all at the table. You were closer to the bar. Okay, would be at the tables. We were just on the opposite side of the table. Okay. That's where Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were standing, talking, and communicating with each other. Is that right? I believe so. I was talking to Ms. Reed. I wasn't paying attention to them. Did you ever see the two men get physical with one another that night? I did not that night, which is a really weird thing to say. I did not that night. Now, I think the reason she says it like this is because she saw it and she's trying to say I saw it in the video after, but the way she says it is it comes across like I've seen them fight before, but just not on that night. I don't think that's how she meant to say it though. I think what she's actually trying to say is, well, I didn't actually see it that night, although that's a lie because of the way she says it. It's uncontracted. It's not how she tells the truth, right? So she's actually lying about not seeing it that night, but then is trying to tell us that she is aware of it because she did see the video. So then he says, have you ever seen a full review in all the hours that you sort of prepped for your testimony? Have you ever been shown the waterfall video from the time you got there until the time you left? Not the full video, but I have seen a good portion of it. Yes, that's a lie. She has seen the full video. Okay, and you've certainly seen the portion where Brian Albert and Brian Higgins get up from the table and sort of get physical with one another, correct? And then she offers, I would say, more like play fighting. Now, we've all seen this video, so it's hard for me to even have any idea what a jury might be visualizing by just two men getting physical. I mean, I have no idea what that would elicit. I think I might immediately assume like some kind of, fight, right? Like actual fight. So then she offers the play fighting. So yes, he never actually says fighting, but he does say get physical.
We probably will.
Oh, okay.
But right now, I'm just asking you, I remember. You remember them squaring off on one another, playing, but squaring off on one another.
I
correct?
don't remember them squaring off. Like I said, I just watched the video. I don't remember it from that night, and I didn't really pay attention. It looked like foolish, like guys. Just I don't even know how to describe it.
From your perspective, having watched the video,
Mhm.
it would appear that they squared off on each other and sort of took a fighting stance.
I didn't look at it that in depth, so I could not say that.
Okay, so she does do some eye shielding here. Just watch carefully. She's kind of closing her eyes, looking down as she's saying, I didn't,
Sort of took a fighting stance.
I didn't look at it that in
See that?
depth, so I could not say that.
Yeah, so that was definitely eye shielding. So that's definitely not true. She did see it, and she knows exactly what he's talking about.
See them walk up to each other and grapple with one another. Like they were always punching each other.
Right.
I get that.
Mhm.
When they grapple with one another, like faking punches to each other.
I don't know.
Almost like sparring a little bit.
I don't honestly know.
But you did see
I saw them together.
So I don't honestly know. Remember, that's suspect because, like, why would you say honestly? Aren't we supposed to assume that everything you say is honest? So these, again, that's like a credibility builder. It's just another way to say, like, no, I really mean this one, it's not.
blurry, and they're kind of, I don't know really what they're doing.
Okay, but they won't stand in there holding hands.
Oh, God, no. No.
They weren't on their phones, right?
They were engaging with each other, playfully, grabbing at each other. I don't really.
Playfully grabbing each other, play fighting, correct? That's my point.
I'd have to watch the video to categorize it as play fighting.
You don't have that in your head?
I didn't know. It was a quick.
Didn't she
clip.
say
I wasn't
play
like
fighting?
focusing on Brian
Isn't
and
that
Brian.
her
I was
statement?
just identifying that was myself in the video, and there was Miss Reed, and I believe Miss Reed actually did some play fighting to Matt.
There was, in fact, to Matt.
Yeah, I feel like she was about like this to Matt at one point. Yeah, in the video.
So let's talk about Brian and Brian.
Mhm.
Higgins and Brian Albert.
Mhm.
Those two men, very large in stature, correct?
They're the guys. Yeah.
Big boys.
Mhm.
A lot bigger than me, right?
Yeah.
They took a fighting stance with each other and started grappling, playing, coming toward each other as if they were engaging in a fake physical altercation, correct?
I did not see that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mm.
You didn't even
She
see it on
did
the
see
video.
it though.
I saw them on the video grabbing at each other. I didn't see stances but again, I didn't pay much attention to it.
And that's your best memory as you sit here today.
So silly.
Yes.
Okay.
Again, why? Like, why, guys? Why do we fight so hard for something so small, right? Like, it is just not such a big deal unless it is a big deal. And that's the part that's crazy. Oh, amazing. Celine, how do you say this, Celine? How do you help me? I'm so bad at like knowing what this means. Celine Soshi9297, could that be right? I sent you an edited image in your Yahoo email to help with the body of John. Oh, yay. Oh my God. I'm definitely going to pull that up while we're talking. That's amazing. Thank you so much. That hopefully will help people sort of like see it, right? Like, hopefully it will inspire. Okay, so wait, we have some questions here. Let me get to these. Okay, Allison Cosgrove 5533 says, Sam, 2 questions that have come up in my mind. 1, do you think the House defendants knew about the dog bites to John's arm before they put him out? Yes. If they did, why not blame Chloe from the get-go? Let me think about it. Well, there's a number of thoughts that come to mind. I think what you're asking is, why not just say, John came into the house, my dog, just jumped on him, he fell, and you know, it was an accident, something like that. Yeah, I mean, I think the answer to this question is the same as why didn't they just, claim self-defense? Since, if Brian Albert and Brian Higgins had just both said, hey, we were showing him these text messages and, he came after me and I swung and he hit his head, there would never have been, I mean, these two would never have been charged. I mean, they were, come on. This ATF agent and Brian Albert, they were very well respected. There's no way there would have ever been anybody that said, you're lying, it just would have been over. But I think that the best answer I've got to your question is that they were not making good decisions. And these were decisions that were made under the influence of alcohol by people who had just done something that could get them into a lot of trouble. In other words, if you're operating with a clear head and not feeling overwhelmed with fear and terror and guilt, then it's easy to see what the right decision would have been in that moment. However, if you're absolutely wasted, and I believe that Brian Albert and Brian Higgins started drinking much earlier than they admit to, that's why there's this weird, in addition to the fact that clearly they were in New York for some other reason they don't want us to know about, I think they got back much earlier than they claim, and that there's whatever time, wherever they were, I think they had been drinking longer than they are admitting. So they were both very, very, very drunk. Brian Higgins actually tells us that Brian Albert drank more than him. And he even at one point indicates a lot more, which again, who knows if that's true. They were both very drunk. I mean, Brian Higgins only drinks Jameson and ginger, right? I can't even, by the way, smell Jameson and ginger without physically being so sick. Like my stomach immediately goes into these tight knots just from the smell. But these guys, I mean, they can drink, right? The big guys, and they can drink. However, we see how wasted Brian Higgins. I mean, he's doing that like sloppy. He's so wasted in this video, in the waterfall video. He's wasted. So I don't think there's much think that a very bad thing happened. It was very clear to these two first responders. Remember, according to Brian Higgins, he's not only a first responder, he is what did he say? Like a trained army, was an army, I don't know if I have the language correctly on this, but he's like a trained army medic of some kind. He's very well trained in emergency response. And the most trained you could be. So, and I think we all know that he tried to save John. I mean, to me, that's very clear. He's very contrite. He gets very upset. Anytime John's nephew comes up, he starts crying. Clearly, when Alan Jackson elicits the image of John Okeefe, dead, the dead body, he actually elicits the idea in his head. He's very reactive. He's very upset. He almost comes to tears, right? I mean, we've all seen that footage of Brian Higgins. So to me, that indicates that he tried to save him. And I think the part that was missing before trial number 2, and the part that kept getting all of us into trouble, was this idea that somebody put him out in the cold to die. That just seems so cold, so calculated, so callous, and not possible, right? Whether it was Karen or anybody else, right? So, but I think when you understand that whatever happened, John died quick, that the injury he sustained as a result of this coup contra coup injury, the fall back, because of the force of the fall, was so devastating that within 15 minutes, he wasn't going to live. These guys would have known that right away. So right away, they were very aware, wasted as all could be, that they had just participated in the murder of a Boston police officer. Had it been a normal barbecue lunch situation where there was no alcohol, fine. maybe then they make a much better decision about what to do. But I think because of the fact that they were very drunk and they felt like what they had done was very bad, right? Like, and I don't mean like I'm a bad person, but like this is very serious and we're going to get in serious trouble, right? Like, to me, I know that sounds childish, but it's kind of that's the way this feels. This feels like a childish decision. And so that's why I immediately default to like it has to have been alcohol infused because it's not the right decision to make, especially not from these two like credible law enforcement people who dedicated their lives to law enforcement. These are not like junior guys. Like these are like senior men inching towards retirement in their careers. It just doesn't make any sense why they wouldn't just trust and leverage their credibility, that the credibility they've worked so hard to build. I think instead they got scared. They made several very bad decisions. And once you make one bad decision, think about it, they snowball. Like once you make one bad choice not to call immediately 911, they were screwed. And John was dead. I think that's the other thing. Like John was dead. So why do that? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, why not just stick together, say he never came in the house and we don't know what happened? Because he's not coming back. If he was savable, then I think they probably would have done what you're saying. But he wasn't. And so, does that make sense? I know that might sound like almost reverse logic for some people, but I think that's actually what. I think if he had been savable, they probably would have done whatever they had to do to save him. But they knew he wasn't, and they would have known. They would have known. I mean, it was a horrible injury. I've gotten some very interesting emails lately and a lot of really good speculations, some interesting ideas that I need to really spend more time going through and combing over. People matching up, John's footsteps to the timeline, John and Jen McCabe's Apple Watch health data to the timeline. Just a lot of interesting, hard work that everybody's doing, which is amazing. And to me, that's how we're going to unravel this thing, is working together like this. But I think the answer is if cooler heads had prevailed, there would have been a obvious, better, preferred way. But I just think that it was very, very drunk alcohol infused decision making at a very vulnerable moment. And these guys just made a bad choice and then just had to continue to make one bad choice after another, because what are you going to do? Once this thing gets underway, what are you going to do? I mean, it's crazy, right? Because even I have been looking at this evidence for 6 months. Like, I don't want to believe that these people are capable of this. It's a horrible thing to do. Not the part about I don't believe this was on purpose. I think it was just, like a bar fight kind of that went too far. So he fell and hit his head. I mean, I don't think there was any intent to murder, but this is the kind of shit that happens, right? This is like, when I'm in high school and a bunch of the, kids in the junior class got drunk and got into a car accident and 4 of them died, right? I mean, this is what happens when people get drunk and do stupid things. I'm not saying they deserved it. I'm just saying stupid shit happens when people are doing stupid shit, right? You would think that 50-year-old, very seasoned veteran military and law enforcement would not make dumb decisions like this, but I'm sure they do every day. I don't know if that was a satisfying answer, but I think that is the answer, unfortunately. I know it's not satisfying, right? Twigs, the Gemini, sends $5, says she wants the video so she knows exactly how much not to say. If they've reviewed the entire video, they would have saw Brian be, yeah, of course. Oh, that's a really interesting point. That's an interesting point. So, I didn't even think about that, right? Like she doesn't, if they reviewed the video, Do you think she's completely aware of that at this moment, at the point that she I'm just trying to think. Do we think that Jennifer knows about that? I think she does. So let's think about this logically, right? If you were there that night at the waterfall and you know that that whole exchange goes down as Brian Higgins is walking out, what's the first thing that you do when you get a hold of that video? The first thing you do when you get that video is you're going to go right to that moment and go, all right, it's like 10 of 12. Where is everybody? What does the video show? So she 100% knows that that is on the video. It's interesting that she would risk going to the video despite that, but I'm sure she's smart enough to realize that like they're not going to sit there and watch an hour and a half of the video, right? But that's interesting. So she wants the video. She wants the video so she knows exactly how much not to say. If they reviewed the entire video, they would have saw they must, right? I mean, everybody here must know about that. There's no way that this woman doesn't know about that part on the waterfall. They all know. Would have been the very first thing that they all look to do the second that video is released. And they're probably surprised that it didn't come into the first trial. You know, they've got to be. Plus, they know what we're looking at. They know what Microdots is doing. The second that Microdots pointed out, you know, what was going on in the waterfall video, they knew. You think these people didn't know? Come on. Of course they did, right? All right, let's keep going with this. And then I'm going to pull up in the meantime the photos of John.
Eventually, your husband, Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, Nicole, Caitlin, everybody went over to 34 Fairview at the end of the night.
Yes.
Correct? The bar closed at, I'm guessing, midnight.
Okay.
Is that right?
I think we were wrapping up around then. I don't know what time it actually closes.
When you left Waterfall, the people that were still there included Matt, your husband, and John Okeefe. Is that right?
Yes.
You walked out with Karina Kolakithis and Karen Reed.
Yes.
And you said to Miss Reed something along the lines of, "You're coming with me," correct?
I said, why don't you come with me?
Okay, fair enough. You were prompting her to join you for the ride over to 34 Fairview. Is that right?
Yes.
You even went outside and sort of waited in the cold. There's a video. Have you seen the video of you outside? The surveillance video of you outside in the cold?
Yes.
And you're sort of waiting there, moving from foot to foot like it's freezing out, which I'm sure it was, correct?
Yes.
In a big puffy coat of some kind, right?
So the question was, I moving foot to foot in a coat? Yes.
My question is more, did you see yourself waiting outside the cold?
I saw myself convert. I believe I was in a conversation at that point when I was standing out there with John and Karen.
And that's when you were asking Karen to come with you?
No, I had asked Karen previously when we were at the door to come with me because I didn't know how long Matt and John were going to be in the bar because they were in there still.
And that would have, by definition, brought Karen to 34 Fairview separate and apart from John Okeefe if Karen had come with you.
Yes.
So, Miss Reed ultimately declined your invitation and did go with John. Is that right?
John ended up coming to the door, so they just went together. Yes.
And finally, you walked away and went with your husband, Matt, over to 34 Fairview in your personal vehicle, correct?
Yes.
When you arrived at 34 Fairview, were you the first among the group that we've just talked about to arrive, or had others arrived before you?
Others had arrived before me.
When you walked in to 34 Fairview, where was everybody generally located? Give me a layout of the interior of the home, how you walked in and where everybody was located, the people that were there when you walked in from the waterfall.
So I walked in through the front door. I took a right into the kitchen. And then there were people sitting around the kitchen table, Brian Albert Jr., Julie Nagel, Sarah Levinson, Caitlin Albert. My sister was over more towards like the counters and the sink, and Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were, there's like a room right off of the kitchen, like a TV room, and they were in there just talking. I think Nicole had like put up some new pictures, so, or maybe the sun and the Marines, they might have been looking at a picture. Vaguely have a faint memory of that.
So one thing that Sergio Denaro says about this moment that sticks with me and I think is so important, is such a great point as to why this comes out the way it does. Because he's saying, right, and anybody, you guys know because you've been studying this stuff too, if I'm recalling a memory, I have the experience in my mind to walk me through what I'm saying. Like I can remember, all right, so we were here and we were doing this, and then, then I think we went here. But if you only have these like statements that you have to hit or implanted evidence memories, oh, I've got to say Sun in the Marines, or I got to say Nicole is cleaning in the kitchen, and I've got to say that we're sitting at the table, and Matt's playing It's Raining Men. She's got these like little snippets that she's, knows she has to hit, but there's no actual way to tie them together legitimately. So of course, as she's trying to pull out of her, what was going on in that moment, all of a sudden she just says Sun in the Marines, or the Sun in the Marines. I have a faint memory, a picture. It's like, there's not even cohesion. Like if you hadn't seen the first trial, you wouldn't even know what she's talking about. You're like, what did she just say? We all know what she's talking about because we knew what this was a reference to. And that makes it even worse, right? Because you just know this is clearly a rehearsed answer. And worse, it must have some utility or she wouldn't feel the need to say it. So why does she need us to know about Brian and Brian in the family room looking at the picture of the Sun in the Marines? Right? Now, I want to show you something right now because I think I have it right here. This is hilarious. Normally, before I show stuff like this, I like to have a name associated with it, and I didn't take the time to do it because I didn't plan on showing it right now. But I really want you to see it because it's hilarious. So this is one of the videos that was on Zillow that shows us 34 Fairvew Road. So let me see if I can find it. Oh, it should be right here. It's hilarious. It's the greatest picture. It's the picture of the family room. So I'm sure you guys have it somewhere too. Let me see if I can find it. It should be right here. Where is it? It's like the greatest picture. Should be right here. And of course, now I don't see it. Okay. While that's happening, I'm going to put Jen back on. I'm going to look for the family room so I can show that to you. So you can see the room that we're talking about. And I don't know if that'll help, but it might help us to come to some conclusion about the value. What's the value? What is the value of the family room? Like, what purpose does the family room serve? Right? Let's see here. Little dog. What?
You indicated that you walked in the front door, correct?
Yes.
May I approach briefly?
Yes.
Can you just take a look at that photograph for just a quick second?
Yes.
Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
What do you recognize that photograph as being?
It's my sister's house.
34
Yes, sorry, 34 Fairview.
Brian Albert's house as well.
Yes.
Ron, I'd like to mark this as marked for identification. There's
Identification's fine.
Thank you. If I may. Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'm going to show a different exhibit until the other issue can be resolved. With the court's permission, it's Commonwealth Exhibit 3. Permission to publish?
Yes.
Ms. Roll, could you highlight or enlarge the house as much as you can? Thank you. Ms. McCabe, do you recognize what's depicted in this photo? I know it's a little bit of an angle.
Well, this is such a
Yes.
good moment. So I want to pause this. And I also want to address this question. I think it's a great question. So Spoiled Sprites 3344 asks, do you think there's any validity to the rumors about John investigating sex crimes and discovering that Brian Albert was involved in a sex scandal ring? I've never heard about the Brian Higgins and Brian Albert finding out at the funeral. That part I've never heard of. I did and do have a lot of evidence that was sent to me about the ring itself. I believe, if this is my memory is correct on this, it was a sex scandal that involved Uber. Does this ring a bell for anybody? This is a legitimate scandal. It could very well be true. Like, I think this is an example of like two things can be true at the same time. That would be my answer. My answer is yes. I do think there's definitely the possibility that John was investigating sex crimes. Simultaneously, Brian Albert could have very well been involved in a sex scandal of sorts that included or involved Uber and like essentially sending prostitutes out using Uber or a service like Uber, but for prostitutes in the Boston area. That is the evidence that was sent to me. There was a lot of it, which seemed to give a lot of validity to the actual story, to the whole scandal. I'm sure some of you guys in and around Boston know about it, but I don't actually think that's why this happened to John. I just think this was something that, kind of spiraled quickly out of control. I don't think it was intentional murder because of a sex crime investigation. Even like the worst of the worst, I just don't think they would have done that to John Okeefe because of the kids. Like, I mean, look, he was allegedly given this desk job to keep him out of harm's way, which is something that, like, I heard Brendan Kane verify that, wasn't a job that John wanted in particular. It was just like a 9-to-5 gig that allowed for him to take care of the kids, and that they felt it kept him, doing something that was a little bit less dangerous, and that's actually not what he wanted long term for his career, but that he was doing it because of the kids. So I just don't think, all that to say, I just don't think that I don't think this incident was related to that. However, it's very possible that there was a sex scandal of sorts, ring, that Brian Albert could have known about and that John could have also been investigating. But I don't necessarily, no, I'm not going to say don't necessarily. I don't believe this death was because of that. So I hope that answers the question. But it does appear as though this was a legitimate scandal. I mean, the scandal itself was real. How much involvement these two men had in it, that I don't know. This is really interesting. This is one of the most incriminating moments throughout this trial. It is bizarre. It was so bizarre that in real time I caught this and I was like, did anybody else just hear that? I mean, it was so incriminating. And this is really what made me think, okay, well, now we know the garage is involved.
The house as much as you can. Thank you. Ms. McCabe, do you recognize what's depicted in this photo? I know it's a little bit of an angle.
Yes.
What is that?
That is 34 Fairview.
Okay. Can you, I think this laser will work. Can I approach?
Yes.
Use that laser and point to the front door that you entered when you walked in the house. Okay, that's directly in the middle of the just to the left of the flagpole for this purposes of this photograph, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there another entry door on the house that you may not be able to see, but you know the general area?
Yes.
Where's that door?
So that would be, see where these two windows are?
Yes.
The door would be kind of behind that right there. So it's right to the left of those two windows.
And Ms. McCabe, just staying with doors for a second, is there another door associated with the garage?
Oh, actually, yeah, there is. Right there.
Right there next to that side door?
Yes.
Okay.
What is that? What is that? Oh, yeah, actually, there is. What? Jen, I mean, you've been going to this house for 30 years and you don't know there's a garage door? Like, why would you say that? Now, I know the answer. I know exactly why she would say it, but it's still like, how does it come? It's leakage, right? I mean, that was leakage. It came out that way because she's trying to distance herself from the garage door. And that was the moment where I thought, okay, well, I guess we know the garage had some role in this, because if it didn't, there is no way that is how she would be reacting. Now, there is more evidence, by the way, of the garage having a role, not just from the photos of obviously the, I guess it's a curb. I don't know what that, the area in the garage with the red paint and the place where we know the ledge that John could have hit his head on. There's also a ledge, and I was just trying to find this, in the family room. The family room of the house, which I was trying to find the picture for, has a fireplace. You walk in, let me see if I can find it. I'll try one more time to find it again. You walk in, there's a wood floor and a fireplace. And you know how traditional fireplaces have a kind of like a stone ledge right in front of them. This does also, exactly the same way that he could have hit his head on those kind of steps in the garage. Now, I do believe the idea of a step, if I remember correctly now, it's coming back to me, made sense because of the scratch marks. But remember, there was another piece too. The way that John's head wound was, the gash is in the like kind of mid upper part of his back of his head, and the skull fracture is much lower. And the reason why a step was indicated in the fall was because it would have been the only way you could get both a gash, like a scrape, and an indent in the back of the head at the same time as a full skull fracture all around the base of the skull. Hopefully that made sense. So I think that is why the stairs in the garage were, for the defense team, a big deal. Why they felt like the stairs in the garage were kind of the perfect spot for the absolute exact head wound that he had. It could not have been just a blunt surface because, number one, you would have seen. So the actual like mark on his head is in a different location than the skull fracture. That's the best way to say it. So I think that's why. Hopefully that made sense. It was actually very clever to start the not in the house mantra. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, yeah, because a couple of things. But I mean, there's a lot. I don't even know where to go. There's so much here. Okay. I don't want to get too far off course, but absolutely. I mean, they were right. It worked. It's worked. They're still not in any kind of real legal trouble, right? And I think Brian Albert is behind this whole operation. Soup to nuts, is really his doing. I mean, even the BS rhetoric from the DA, right? I mean, this whole silly nonsense narrative about a witness intimidation. Like, are you kidding? Like, Aiden Carney loves nothing more than these people to testify. Like, nobody wants to keep them off the stand. Like, what are you talking about? Right? It's absurd. It's just ridiculous. But it was a way that Michael Morrissey started pushing to try to put Aiden in jail. thinking that was going to shut him up, right? Seemed like a good enough idea as any, except that it's absurd. And now Brian Albert is trying to campaign on, we are going to stop witness intimidation in the future too. I mean, it's just so but it's not stupid, right? It's not a stupid decision. It's absurd because when you look at the facts, it doesn't make any sense. But if you know nothing about this case, could you believe? I heard, if you watch the most recent video from Microdots, you'll see how the Julie Grant and co of the world were framing this whole story in the early days. It's wild. I mean, some of the things that these people say, right? Like, oh, the mob is being paid by Karen Reed. It must be that because it's either that or the cops did something wrong. I mean, it's really, really, it's really crazy. So I think, to your point, the idea is if we just keep sticking to our narrative and if we stick together, eventually, we'll sell this thing. And because the investigation was so shoddy, all their buds, right? Michael Proctor is the lead investigator on the case. And it's really the DA and Brian Tully who are in charge of the whole investigation. I mean, Proctor's just like, the guy on the ground, but every single, I shouldn't leave out Kenneth Berkowitz, because Tully tells us that, especially in that early go of it, in the first 6 weeks, 2 months, the decision makers are quite clear. It's the DA, Kenneth Berkowitz, and Brian Tully. Those are the people on the phone together making the decisions about who's going to do what and when. Canton having the appearance of being recused. Now, of course, they aren't recused. You've got Berkowitz driving around, taillight revealing itself. And thanks to Emily C., we now know, there's just this whole silliness about like the biggest snowstorm the world has ever known. And for months afterwards, snow is melting. It's just absurd. There just wasn't that much snow. Right? We've all seen snowstorms, certainly in New England, and there can be a lot of snow. But in this particular situation, the snow doesn't even start until like in any kind of very serious start to really develop in in terms of how much there winds up being until later in that day. And it warms up pretty quickly too. So this whole nonsense about it takes months for the taillight to reveal itself. It's just all so silly. But there are a couple of really important things I want to tell you guys about, some things I've been looking at, and one thing I've been looking at is Sean Good. I will tell you, I've been looking at Sean Good. Now, I know Sergeant Good was recently suspended without pay. I don't know if he's been welcomed back in. I don't know if we even know specifically like what, why he was suspended to begin with. But there's some interesting stuff with him. The other thing I would encourage people to take a look at is Mike Lank and the phone call that Alan Jackson points out that he takes for about 7 minutes or so in the 7 minutes just before the lights come on at 34 Fairview. To me, it does appear like Mike Lank is on the phone with Brian Albert in the house. Now, if you want to know why Brian Albert would do something as incriminating as destroy his cell phone the day before a stay order on the phone, it's because that was the better of the two choices. The better choice was destroy the phone and take the hits, how bad it looks doing so, rather than let somebody see what's on my phone because of how incriminating whatever is on my phone actually is. And that's the choice he's, and I think the other thing about Brian Albert that you want to keep in mind, that has always been the way he's evaluated things. He's like, yeah, it looks really bad that we're saying that we slept with our dog through all this commotion on our front lawn, but the alternative would have been worse. The alternative exposes that I knew he was outside on my lawn and that there's a dead cop on my lawn, right? So for Brian Albert, the better option in that moment is to swear that he had no knowledge of what's going on in the front lawn. And he just keeps making decisions like that the whole way. Unfortunately for him, they're decisions that are impossible for any rational, sane human being to believe. Like, for example, that Chloe, this aggressive German Shepherd, who earlier in this evening, by his own admission, was barking a lot because whether, by the way, it was because she had to pee or because she was hungry or because there were people in the house, he is on paper documented saying that the dog was barking earlier that night, but nobody ever sees or hears a peep from this dog. So either the dog was murdered, right? It's a reasonable possibility at this point, or left with Caitlin. Like there's no other choice because who else is taking that dog off the property? It had to be Caitlin, right? Yeah, right. Right. It's not even like, what was he going to do? Come out in his underpants? But it was even worse than that because, right? Like, oh my God, I lost you. You guys are moving so quick. I can't get to you. I see tech savvy. I see you. I see you. Yes. Right. What was he going to do? Run out in his underpants? Well, it isn't even that. Like, the choice is acknowledge there's a man who, by the way, see, this is like, remember how Brennan used to like love to talk about consciousness of guilt? Like Brennan loved that. That was like his big thing, like consciousness of guilt. Karen Reed, consciousness of guilt. Well, it's a pretty important thing. And it's all over this group of people in the house. It's just all over them. This is really the only explanation that makes sense for Brian Albert's behavior across the board. It really is. Because John Okeefe is a dead body outside on his lawn, not a living police officer, but a dead body. So once John Okeefe is no longer living, to the people in that house who are aware of that, it is just like the largest, scariest liability in the whole world. And for him to go outside and interface with a dead body on his front lawn is very dangerous to a man like Brian Albert, right? So he was like, I will do anything that I have to do. I will take the hits. I will pretend like my dog was at the foot of my bed. I will say I didn't hear anything or see anything. But what I will not do is go outside and acknowledge the dead body on my lawn. And the problem that they have is if these are such experienced and trained first responders, they would have known, just like Jen pretends like she doesn't know, that this is not a living person, right? Like it wasn't a person still alive. You know what I'm saying? So it puts him in a position where he's the guy at the scene calling a dead body, calling the police officer that he allegedly just found. I just think at the end of the day, Brian Albert made the very clear choice that could not be what happened. He was not going to put himself on his own front lawn with a dead Boston police officer. It was just never going to happen. And that's why he didn't do it. To me, that's what happened, right? Somebody mentioned Chloe earlier. I also think that Chloe, if you and they probably know this. Now, I don't know what the laws in Massachusetts say about a dog who is liable. So like if my dog attacks somebody in my house and they die, who is responsible for that death? Now, I'm going out on a limb. I don't know this. I'm guessing that in each state there are different laws about the level of responsibility. But I know that I've seen, like, because I've, like all of us, I'm a true crime person. And I know I've seen in other states, like remember one case in particular where a guy had used his dog, like gave a command to the dog who then went on and did kill somebody. That guy got life in jail because he gave the command to kill. Right? I don't know what the command was. I just know they were able to prove that the guy gave a command and that the dog, that he had control over the dog. Like that was the evidence that was provided at trial. I mean, who knows? Maybe Brian Albert did give a command. Maybe it was to try to stop John from beating up Brian. I don't know. But if in the state of Massachusetts, the owner of the dog is held as responsible for what that dog is doing, well, then it gives us a clear understanding of why Brian Albert would have seen whatever Chloe was doing as on his shoulders, right? Yeah, I know. I think we all, a lot of people have asked this, like, what would have happened if Karen would have went to the door and knocked? It's a great question. People ask me that a lot. My guess off the top of my head, I don't know. Tried to run cover. They probably Jen would have answered the door and let her in and sat with her and pretended like, I don't know where John, I don't know. It's a great question. I don't think they would have hurt her in any way. I think they just would have played stupid. Like, we don't know what happened to John. He must have left. I didn't see him. He went outside. He must have went over to Bella's, He went over to Tom Beatty's. I don't know. Something like that. I think another question, something I would love to know, and I'd love to get your guys' take on this. Do we think that, so I didn't evaluate, I have to look at it again because it's been a while and I have all this new information since, but do people think that Jennifer McCabe was savvy, was aware, or I guess a better question, at what point does everybody in that house become aware? This is a real point of contention for me, and I can't seem to get clarity on the answer. So anybody who thinks they know the answer to this, I would love to hear your version here. Something I just can't get around is who knew what when. Like, at what point do the McCabe's and Nagel and Levinson, at what point do these people who are sitting at that kitchen table or in the family room or back and forth or whatever, the party goers, I guess, Brian Albert Jr., at what point, if any, are they brought into this thing? Like, were they aware, or are they just completely oblivious to the fact that John Okeefe is ever in, around, or at that house? That's the part I just don't know clearly. But I will tell you I'm getting closer because today somebody sent me a breakdown of the steps and Jen McCabe's Apple Watch health data lined up with the timeline. And here's what didn't happen. All of the getting up and sitting down and getting up and going to the door. I mean, not that I need to tell you this because I know you already know this, but in case you weren't sure, she doesn't do that. So there's no getting up and moving to the door and back. There's just sitting, right? There's no stepping during the time that she's claiming she was moving around. So that gives us information that may help us to understand what was really going on. And it may very well be that Jen just didn't know until later. Later, when is later? I don't know. But here's the thing. I mean, I wonder what the defense knows that we don't. Clearly they have information from the feds, obviously, that we don't. I also wonder, did they get the geofence data? Did the feds ever get this data, like the location data for any of these people? Because really, we don't have that. Like, who do we have? We have information about Jen, Carrie, I guess, John. But we really don't know where Brian Higgins was besides, what we see that he was at the police station. He tells us he was there. We know he was there. But we don't know, Like, we don't have proof of any of these people's whereabouts that night. And any that we do have, like with Allie McCabe, they just deny. So we don't know. I mean, we just don't know. We don't know who was moving around in the middle of the night and where they were and what they were doing. But I will tell you, it would have taken probably 3 men to move John. And based on where I now see his body is, which I'm trying to find, I'm stalling, waiting for that picture to hopefully come into my email, but I don't see it. I don't see it in my email. It's not there. Based on where I see it, I'm pretty sure they put him in the car and drove him over. I mean, that's just based on where I see and the way he's located. Like, you could just see, like, one person would have had the feet, the other person would have had the hands and the top, and they would have moved him out of the car, onto the lawn, placed him there, got back into the car, and moved the car. That would have been the quickest way to get him from point A to the lawn. So that, we know the Ford Edge is there. We know 3 of the Alberts owned a Ford Edge at the time: Kevin, Colin, and Brian. So, well, I guess Chris and Colin count as one. I'm not, but Tactical Medic. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, that's right. Tactical Medic. That's what it was. Thank you. I could not remember the name of Tactical Medic. So I very much appreciate that. Analyze Murdoch. Great idea, Twig. So it's really funny. Every time I actually, like, there's been maybe 3 or 4 times where I've gone to Alex's testimony and start it, and then something takes me away from it. So, no, I know there's a lot of material there. It's not, I'm very, very familiar with the Murdoch case. So, certainly, I would be able to jump in and do some analysis pretty easily, because I'm, I think that case, I mean, again, now you're dealing with OxyContin, a legacy, like a family legacy. And because I lived in South Carolina for a little while, anybody who lives in South Carolina and who kind of knows the whole, like, thing about families and heritage and lineage. I mean, these are words that are just, like, built into the fabric of the culture of South Carolina. So to me, it does make sense what happened. I mean, I think it's clear what happened. I do think he was very much responsible. This is me without analyzing his statements, just based on what I know of the case and what I know about OxyContin, South Carolina. So I'd be coming in with a bias just because of that. Not that I'm saying he wasn't responsible, by the way, for his behavior, but I think he was very clearly afraid of being exposed and, made some very bad decisions in a very, very bad state of mind. So, but I will take a look at it, because I've been meaning to forever and ever and ever. I don't see it. Why don't I see the edited copy, Celine? I don't see it. It's driving me insane. I really don't see it. It's, like, not showing up in my email. I did mention. Wait, hear me. No, don't see it, Celine. Why don't I see it? So I mentioned this earlier, and this is kind of what I was saying. I had mentioned that I purchased a, like, an AI email organizing thing to try to help me to sort through email and get back to people more effectively and more efficiently. It appears that emails are not, like, they did something where I can't see all the emails coming in. So I don't know if that's why I don't see it here. It's very possible. It's super annoying. Well, maybe what I'll do then, you guys, is, so, okay, before we end, I want to get through some more of these from you guys, and then should we do Wednesday night? Thursday's Thanksgiving, and I can't tell, like, I don't know, when I was younger, that was like a big night for people to go out and do stuff. Is that still true? I have no idea. So if you guys are around on Wednesday night, I guess put a 1 in the chat. If you're not around and you're like, yeah, don't bother, it's the eve of Thanksgiving, maybe put a 2 in, and that will give me some indication of which way to go, right? I don't know why I cannot find it, Celine. It's driving me insane, but we will continue to try to wait and see if I can find it. Welcome to any and all new members tonight. I'm super excited that you are here. I am working on a bunch of new membership stuff. It's all coming. It's very exciting. It's super fun. I've had a lot of people giving me suggestions about different things, and it's really fun. We're having a fun time working on it. So there's a lot of good stuff coming. And yeah, I think, okay, so we're down for, it looks like everybody's on board for Wednesday, which is exciting. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, right? It might be something like people can listen. Right? That's what I would do too. Like I would have it on while I was doing a bunch of other stuff to get ready for Thanksgiving. All right. So I think I will probably be seeing you guys on Wednesday night. I'll be here in New York, and then I'm going to leave very early on Thursday morning to head upstate to Connecticut and to celebrate Thanksgiving. We do like a huge Thanksgiving spread, and it's super fun. So it's like one of my favorite holidays. But I'll see you guys before that. So we've got a lot to do. We've got a lot more Jen McCabe we've got to get through. But I'm going to come now that we've been through this whole John Body situation. I'm going to come with receipts and videos and photos that make it very clear what I was saying to you earlier, because some of you think I've lost my mind, and then I think the fire hydrant is really John when it isn't. And I get it, because I've been staring at that exact same image for the last 2 years and didn't realize that it was a body. So I'm with you. I completely understand. And like I said to you, listen, if you've emailed me and I haven't gotten back to you, it is not because I don't care or I'm ignoring you. It is because my email is under construction and we are getting it figured out. I am very likely going to have to just hire somebody and like bite the bullet. I've done a couple of interviews. It's so hard, right? Because it's just, like you're bringing on another person and then you have to train them, and it's a lot of work, but I think it's just time because it's a disaster. It really is. All right, you guys, you are the best chat the world has ever known. I am totally convinced. And I am so, so grateful for all of you. Denise truly is the best moderator the world has ever known. And we thank you eternally for everything that you do. All of you, I hope I will get to see you again Wednesday night. And I guess with that, I bid you a farewell. If I don't see you Wednesday, everybody have a beautiful Thanksgiving holiday. And I will definitely see you again very soon. There's a lot of evidence here, an unimaginable, overwhelming amount. And we're going to be going through it. As soon as we can get it to you, I will be doing that. So good night, everybody. I will see you on Wednesday.
Defense counselor's duty to protect the rights of the individual, as it is the prosecution's duty to uphold and defend the laws of the state. Justice for all. Only we have a problem here.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love